He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
This is Nnamdi Asamoah. I play football for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I do off the field with United Way might be more important. I'm a volunteer tutor and mentor. Why? Because over 1 million kids a year drop out of school, and that's not okay. It takes 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be me, or it could be you. Studies show that if we get to these kids earlier, their chances are better, and kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. So join me in United Way. Suit up and take the pledge. Become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, because when a child succeeds, we all succeed. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Take the pledge at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way, the Ad Council, and the National Football League.
They'll challenge your authority. They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm gonna keep ticking, but no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There's only one more. There is only one more. That's it. One more.
Get a rest!
No!
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up!
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen?
They play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Yay!
Man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
You're not even a has-been. You're a never was. You're a never was. January 4th, 2023, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can call our show at 631-672-3108 is the number to call, and go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows all throughout the week, and you can listen to our show, the Sports Loudmouths, every single Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m. And we have a wonderful show, but before we do that, Speedy, how was your New Year's?
Well, it was a lot of fun. I had 5 out of the 6 of my immediate family. We had a nice party. We had a lot of different appetizer food, probably like 10 different types. We had 3 different types of champagne. Just really celebrated for a while, and watched a lot of the college football too, which had 2 fantastic games on that New
Could
Year's
you believe
Eve.
TCU make it to the championship?
That was insane.
I was shocked.
Yeah, that was insane. But yes, definitely a lot of fun. We also the next day got to see the new Black Panther as well.
You saw fantastic. The new Black Panther? Huh?
Yes, we were fantastic.
I definitely want to go check that out. I did see the new Avatar, which was great.
Nice.
I saw it in 4K, by the way, which was fun. It felt like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It was really unique and very different. I've done some 4K movies. I forget, I saw a shark movie in 4K, which it felt like I was in the ocean. It was splashing water throughout the movie. So it was interesting. And it felt like I was on a roller coaster. But anyways, at 7:30, we'll be talking to Giants two-time Super Bowl champion running back, Brandon Jacobs, for the first guest that we have in the new year, Brandon Jacobs and his 5-star recruit son. So we'll have him on the show for the first time. It will be fun. At 8 o'clock, we'll be talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Draft. So he'll be joining us as well. So we're going to get into, obviously, Damar Hamlin. He suffers a scary injury, cardiac arrest. He stopped breathing for about 5 minutes, which it's remarkable that they found a pulse and they rushed him to the hospital. And some people are saying that he's slowly but surely looking better. So that's what the doctors are saying. So we'll get into that. Giants clinched the number 6 seed in the NFC. The Jets were eliminated after losing 23-6 against the Seahawks. Jim Harbaugh says he is likely to take an NFL job this offseason if the offer is good. So Jim Harbaugh might be coming back to the NFL. I expected this. Everybody expected this, but he's going to make a lot of money. And he is obviously making, I think, $9 or $10 million from Michigan.
Yeah.
And he was there for a significant amount of time. He went to a title game last year. He was in the Final Four this year, and he couldn't cut it against TCU. So I think he wants to get back to the NFL and try to win a Super Bowl, something he couldn't do as a player.
And he won an unclaimed national championship at Michigan. So let's see if he does a real one this time.
Yeah. Georgia and TCU advance to the national championship game. Ken Rosenthal reports he expects Carlos Correa's deal to the Mets to be dramatically different than 12 years, $315 million. And we will update the NFL playoff picture, which everybody wants to know. Who's in, who's out, what happens on Sunday. So we'll go over that. I'm sure Speedy has every intricate thought to what could happen moving forward in the playoff picture.
If it even is this Sunday, we'll see.
Well, what are you talking about? They're not going to have games on Sunday?
They might have to delay it. We'll see.
Why?
If Damar Hamlin, like the games, they might have, the NFLPA has been discussing it. So
really?
Yeah.
They're not going to have games this weekend because Damar Hamlin?
They were thinking about pushing it back a week. It's not confirmed yet, but we'll see.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I understand. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Damar Hamlin's family. I couldn't imagine what they were feeling and what they were watching when he completely fell over and his heart stopped beating.
Yep.
So I couldn't imagine what his mom was feeling, his father was feeling, his brothers, his sisters, his aunts, his uncles. So a horrible thing to watch. It really was. It was really sad. And that's the thing about football. It is a dangerous sport. I don't know if anybody watched the movie Concussions. And we've spoken to a lot of ex-NFL players about CTE and brain trauma. And at first, I thought it was a brain injury. I thought it was a head injury by the way he hit. But after watching the slow motion while he was laying and he was on the floor and he was on the field, I thought after watching it 2 or 3 times, it had to be something cardiac-wise because it didn't look like he collided head-to-head. It looked like it was his body. So I don't know exactly how this happened, but it's scary when you watch the game of football. It is an abusive sport. We watch hockey. It's very abusive. You watch these guys skating 60, 70 miles per hour on the ice, and they're hitting into players with boards that don't even move. And I know because I played. I was a big prospect, and I know what it's like when you're hitting somebody, and it's not. When you're hitting somebody on a football field, it's going to give. When you're hitting somebody against the boards don't really give. It's like a wall. But nevertheless, football is such a dangerous sport. You put your bodies on the line, your legs, your knees, your heart, your brain, everything is on the line every single week by week. And Damar Hamlin, a guy that has had no cardiac problems in his past. I mean, everything that I've read, he was healthy. They do tests and physicals every single year. And by the way, Jeff says no one skates 60 miles per hour. Horrible take. Well, guess what, Jeff? That is wrong. That is wrong. Because maybe they're not skating 60 miles per hour like that, but at foot speed, 60. Who skated around the ice last year? Was it Connor McDavid? It was like 10 seconds.
It was Cale Makar.
Cale Makar was like 9.5 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was, you're going to tell me around the ice, you're not going close to 60 miles per hour? Yeah. Okay. Okay, Jeff. Like, you know. And by the way, Jeff, I would love to play you on the ice. Any day you want. I'm out of shape and I can skate around you with my eyes closed. So I don't even want to hear it from you because you, as far as collegiate or any type of hockey that you played, what did you play? High school hockey? What did you play? Junior 2, Junior 3 hockey? I played Junior A hockey. I was a top prospect. You weren't. So don't tell me how hockey players and how fast hockey players go. So that's it. And you're saying, 22 miles per hour. That's how fast humans can run. Well, guess what? On skates, double, triple it. Anyways, I don't want to get into an argument with Snug and Jeff. This is not about the show. They're not about the show. They're just fans that annoy the hell out of people. Damar Hamlin is a young kid. He's 24 years old. There has not been any background of cardiac problems in his past in college, high school. When you look at the game, and the game of football, it is dangerous. And the NFL is trying to fix that. They're trying to work with the helmet situations as they do in practice. As you watched on Hard Knocks, they're wearing these soft helmet, pads on top of the helmets, which protect their heads. But we have seen basketball players collapse, high school, college basketball players collapse. They didn't know they had heart problems. They never, and then all of a sudden collapse. They find they had an enlarged heart, or they had cardiac problems like a delta wave, or a different delta electrical wave going in and out, from different canals of their heart. When you watch something like that on national TV, it scares you. If you're a parent that actually has your kids playing the game of football and watching somebody like that, a professional football player, a pretty good safety in the NFL, falling over and absolutely his heart stops beating, it's scary. And it's not about the Buffalo Bills or the Bengals. And the NFL had every right to cancel that game and maybe push that game off. And I don't know if they're going to redo that game. I don't know if they, being that both teams have a chance, they have one more game left. If one team loses or one team wins, and it doesn't matter where they fall when it comes to their spots in the playoffs, maybe they don't play that game. I don't know. I don't know what the NFL is thinking. But when you look at the game and the speed of the game, these players, and we speak about this all the time, there are players like Jordan Davis, who's 360 pounds, 370 pounds, 6'5", 6'6", who can run through a wall. He's like, I think he runs a 4.8.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Offensive linemen that are running 4.9s, 5s right now at the combine. It's unbelievable, the athletic ability that these guys have. And they are doing, they always get their physicals, like I was just saying. They're getting checked by doctors, team doctors, their own doctors. Now, I don't know how a heart stops if he's never had cardiac problems. I'm not a doctor. But it's scary when you watch. It doesn't matter if it was a player on your team or it was a player that you hated. When you see something like that happens, it scares you. It sometimes worries you as a parent if your kid should play football or put yourself at risk for playing football. But you look at this game, and this game was the biggest game of the week. The Bengals and the Buffalo Bills, both teams fighting for second or first, because you don't know what's going to happen. You have Kansas City. They're playing at a high level. Buffalo's playing at a high level. The Bengals haven't lost a game in like 8 weeks or something like that. 7 weeks.
Yep, not since Halloween.
Joe Burrow right now is everybody keeps talking about Mahomes winning the MVP. It should really, and I'm going to say this, Jalen Hurts should win the MVP. He has had a phenomenal year, but because he's missed the last 2 games, and I guarantee you if there's games on Sunday, he plays on Sunday because they need to win that game if they plan to be in first place because San Francisco, Minnesota, the Dallas Cowboys, could you imagine Dallas sneak in as the number 1 seed?
Yeah.
So you look at the game and you look at the thoughts of where the game is and how the game has transitioned to the speed, the power, and the ability that some of these players have. Things like this will happen. You will see this. This is not the first time you're going to see it. It won't be the last. And that's why the NFL, the NHL, all the high, when it comes to abusive sports should look into this and make sure that their players are protected.
And it's also endurance too. Hockey has a lot of endurance.
Yes.
Football has a lot of more short-term endurance, but definitely endurance. And you look at a case of Damar Hamlin, in this case, T. Higgins made a football move, just tried to power through get some extra yardage on a tackle, and that's really what happened. It wasn't like anything dirty or egregious. And T. Higgins, after that whole incident happened, was very emotional. He thought I hope he doesn't think he's at blame for that kind of thing because it's a football play. But in the case of Damar Hamlin, that could happen at any given time, just making a routine tackle, and it was so unfortunate the way it ended up going down. Nobody has been on the field with CPR for 20 minutes at a time before he was even rushed to the hospital too. And shout out to all the fans and all the security, the cops that were letting all those guys in, all the fans, Stephon Diggs, to help console their teammate and everyone in the room. Now it's only limited right now, people that are in the room in the hospital. His agent, I believe, is one of them, his uncle, I think his brother, something like that, is in there. So you're looking at a case where there's just so many different fronts to look at that. And the NFL should have, why they took so long to cancel the game was surprising in itself. But the NFL, we've heard it from a lot of the players we've had on the show in the past too. Like the NFL does not do a good job with a lot of these injuries, especially with CTE, but also the players when they retire too. They just have bad benefits, and it just doesn't work that way where these guys, these things are not addressed right away. They wanted to resume the game, and I don't know why. Like, there's no way that these teams are going to be able to play it through that night. So they finally made a decision to cancel. We'll see. I would just give it a tie. Just let them have a tie, and then just play whatever Week 18 games they need to, because I think that's all they care about right now. They want to. I'm sure the Buffalo Bills players would much rather have their teammate with them in a Super Bowl. With them and miss the playoffs entirely than be in a Super Bowl without them. And same thing with the Bengals.
And by the way, I want to correct myself because Jeff's even wrong. He says the fastest speed is 33 miles per hour or something like that. No, it's Connor McDavid, which is 25.7. Okay, Jeff. So as smart as you think you are and you think you're always right, you're wrong. So Connor McDavid is the fastest hockey player of all time, and it's a proven fact. So what? Because I said 60 miles per hour? Oh my God. Jeff, you're such a smart guy. Not. Anyways. Yeah. So when you look at the Damar Hamlin situation, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to go back and forth on what the NFL needs to do. I think the NFL already knows. And being that they're thinking about canceling the games this week, this is the first time we've ever seen the NFL even plan to do this. That is the first time I remember the NFL canceled the game because of an injury like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
I remember there were other people mentioning too. There was one with the collapse of the Jets-Lions game in 1993, and that was the last time that kind of thing happened. And they didn't even do that when it came to canceling the games either. So you could just tell in the NFL community that there was a lot of players that were just really struck by this kind of thing, because you never see anything like it. Yeah, you see hits that in bad injuries, but a guy collapsing on the field, and again, you mentioned it, he was not breathing for 5 minutes, and he went into cardiac arrest. And again, there could be a lot more. Now he's a little more stable, where you're looking at a case of how long will it be in the hospital? Like, if they even, obviously he's not going to play for the rest of the year, maybe for his career at this rate. And the Bills players just can't really be in the right state of mind to be able to play or just function like normal. And there's a lot of other teams going through that right now. A lot of guys that knew him in the community, played with him in college, all that stuff. So it's a lot to have to go through right now, and hopefully the NFL can get this right.
I think when you look at the game and how it's transitioning, there is a lot of specs that the NFL needs to look at in the offseason. They've changed some of the rules. They think that it's protected some of the players, and maybe it has. And this is not any of the this particular incident had nothing to do with the equipment, had nothing to do with any of it. It had something to do with obviously something maybe medically wrong with Damar Hamlin that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
His doctors couldn't find or something of like that. So I don't know exactly moving forward what the NFL could do behind this, but I like that the NFL is taking initiative from it. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I hope they take initiative to a longer-term thing for the players, too, because a lot of these players, you don't know what they're going to be able to go through, both mentally and physically, too.
And I think Snug has a good thought on this. He says, props to the coaches. They had better sense than the NFL in postponing the game. So yeah. I absolutely agree with you, Snug. I think the game, I think these coaches understand the importance of the player and importance of what happened on the field. So it's disgusting. And honestly, Jeff, if you keep it up, we're going to block you. I mean, it's getting to a point that we're going to have to block you. And I don't want to do it, but you're getting to a point that we're going to, because I think it's not right what you're doing on the feed. It's not funny. Anyways, I want to get into also the Giants clinching the number 6 seed in the NFC. And I think the real surprise for the New York Giants so far, it really is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has had a really, really good season. And when you kind of look at the numbers, and I know it's not all about the numbers, but Daniel Jones had nobody to throw to this year. Darius Slayton was his number 1 target. Darius Slayton on any other team would probably be a 3rd option. Sometimes, some teams, maybe a 4th option. But Darius Slayton had a very good season. Bellinger looked really, really good. The tight end who they drafted in the 4th round looked really, really good. And there's some aspects of the offense. Obviously they're figuring things out, and you're seeing it. Dable is figuring out what their strengths are offensively and what their weaknesses are. Saquon Barkley has had a magnificent season. He's been fantastic. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He's back to what he was in the first 2 seasons before he got hurt. So if you're a Giant fan, you sit here today, you should be very happy. And I don't know, John Suggs says Daniel Jones comeback player of the year. I don't know if he was comeback player of the year, but he's had a very good season. There's a couple of players that had good comeback years and did very well coming back from an injury and of that magnitude. So, but Daniel Jones has had a fantastic year. He really has. And I will give Jeff a lot of credit on this. And me and Jeff were two of the only people that really took a thought on when Daniel Jones was drafted a couple of years ago from Duke. I really thought he was I thought he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks in that draft class. Now, Kyler Murray was drafted in that class. Who else was drafted in that class?
Well, the other one that was high was Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins, may rest in peace, by the way.
Yes. But those were really that was a really top-heavy first round that was supposed to be. There was the 2018 draft, the 2020 draft, that was kind of the one in between where it wasn't supposed to be as good. And that's why at the time, I didn't want Daniel Jones. I wanted the Giants to draft Devin White. He went the pick before that, and then Josh Allen or Jonah Williams after that.
I think that when you look at what Daniel Jones has done this year and the recovery from what we saw the last couple of years where everybody was saying he's not a quarterback, he's not a franchise quarterback. What we've seen this year, he can run the ball. He's one of the more faster quarterbacks that we've seen in the NFL. And we speak about Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. People forget how fast Daniel Jones is. He's got breakout speed. And the one thing that he needed to work on was the fumbles.
Right.
And he didn't fumble the ball a lot this year. He's protected the ball very much. He's thrown very few. I think, how many interceptions does he have in this?
8.
8 interceptions. He's had, I think, 17 or 18 touchdowns. So he's had a really, really good season. And I know what you're going to say. Well, those numbers aren't good enough to be a franchise quarterback in the league. Well, when you look at the players he was throwing to, you have to understand that you need weapons. You need players that can create separation. And he didn't have those guys this year. He lost Sterling Shepard early in the season. And then he kept losing piece by piece throughout the Galladay turned out to be a bust.
Yeah.
And so they don't even have a number 1 wide receiver. They don't have a number 2 wide receiver. They had number 3s. That's what they had. And even though the Giants' record looks and stands out to be pretty good for a roster that's not really in depth, very good, their schedule fell into place. And that has nothing to do with why they made the playoffs. You play what's ever on your schedule. Washington played the same schedule. The Dallas Cowboys practically played the same schedule. So did the Eagles.
Right.
Now maybe a few games here and there that weren't the same, but
3 games.
They were pretty much all the same. And the Giants still won 8 games. So actually 9 games. So when you look at the big picture and you look at all these teams, and again, Washington obviously lost their spot. They're not making the playoffs. There's 0% chance they can make the playoffs. And now it's up to Green Bay and maybe
Seattle and Detroit.
Seattle and Detroit. Now, Green Bay and Detroit play on Sunday. Whoever wins that game probably makes it. Well,
Detroit has to have Seattle lose too.
Yes. So Seattle right now has the final spot. If Green Bay wins this week, no matter if Seattle wins or loses, they make the playoffs.
Correct.
So it's so interesting when you look at and you try to compare all these teams. And the NFC is so bottom. What would you call it?
It's top heavy because
I wouldn't even say the bottom teams are just not good.
Yeah, the bottom teams have a lot of surprises because there was a lot of underperforming teams in the NFC. When you look at teams like the Rams, teams like the Cardinals, and again, the Buccaneers won the division, but they're still 8-8. They're underwhelming for what they should be. And yeah, that's what happened this year with the NFC. And the Eagles, 49ers, and the Vikings, teams that were expected to be higher, though they showed out, and Dallas as well. But again, besides that, there were no other teams. Before we get a break, I just want to answer John's question. Do you think the Giants will go after OBJ or somebody like Devontae Adams this offseason? First-round draft, a wide receiver, or defensive line. The one thing I would pay attention to based on the recent trend of this offseason, you saw the 2019 draft class, pretty much all the top wide receivers from that draft class, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and A.J. Brown. All 4 of them either got traded and got paid or they got paid. Those guys in 2020, a lot of them that have been striving this year are not first-round picks.
Odell Beckham is not going to be a Giant in the offseason. Devontae Adams, they need to trade a boatload of players.
Yeah.
They're not getting Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams stays there. I could see Aaron Rodgers going there. I could see Tom Brady going there. They're right there where they can compete in the AFC. The Raiders. And I know they're in a very tough division, but they have a very good offense. They need to fix that defense. They have some money coming off. So they have a chance. They can add 1 or 2 defensive players. They have their draft picks. So I can absolutely did they lose any draft picks with Devontae? No, they signed Devontae.
That was all last year.
So they have their draft picks this year. So I could see the Raiders going after one of those top-notch quarterbacks this offseason where they have a chance to win next year. So I don't see Devontae Adams going anywhere. Odell Beckham, I could see him going more to a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if they think that the Giants will be, or he thinks the Giants will be a contender next year. I think they're at least another year away. Now, the Giants can make a run this year, depending on how everything falls. If they play Minnesota in the first round in the wild card game, they could beat Minnesota. They match up very well. Remember what happened with the Bengals last year? Everything fell the way they needed it to fall for them to go to the Super Bowl. So if everything falls, because the NFC is, there is, like we said, it's a very top-heavy, conference. So maybe if the Giants, I'm just saying, the Giants play the Minnesota Vikings in the first round, just saying, and then somehow Tampa gets out of the, if Tampa gets out of the first round, Tampa will play Dallas. If Tampa beats Dallas, I don't know if it can happen, but maybe the Giants play Tampa.
That would be the NFC Championship game if that would somehow happen, because the Giants would then play the Eagles or the 49ers.
So there you go. So
yeah,
and the Giants could beat the Eagles, and the Giants are playing Eagles this weekend. I don't know if Jalen Hurts plays. If Jalen Hurts plays, the Giants have no chance. And I don't know if the Giants are playing Daniel Jones.
I don't think the Giants are going to play a lot of their defensive starters either, considering all the injuries that they've had in that front. But I want to go back to your question, John. I would pay attention, though, to the 2020 draft class of wide receivers, that a lot of them could be demanding new contracts, too. Maybe that's an area the Giants look in, somebody like Michael Pittman, who might want to Indianapolis, T. Higgins with the Bengals, because they have some cap issues. Maybe they have trouble hanging on to him. So it might be costly to get those types of players, but I wouldn't mind them doing.
Well, they're going to franchise them.
Yeah. Or again, if the Giants can end up getting one of them and have to trade a first round pick, then draft another guy in the second round too, to add a little more depth to go along with Shepard. And when he does come back,
expect Dable to go after a big wide receiver this offseason. He needs a weapon. Daniel Jones needs a weapon, and he needs a healthy weapon, because Pittman over the last couple of years has not stayed healthy. He really hasn't. Now, Higgins, even though he's been injured here and there, I think Higgins is more of a sure thing than a Michael Pittman. Pittman, remember, when he came out of college from USC, he was injury prone. So I don't know if I would trust Michael Pittman if I'm going to have to trade a first round draft pick for him to give away a future star or a future top pick for a guy that I couldn't trust if he could stay healthy. Now, Shepard will be back next year, so I don't know how strong he will be. He tore his ACL. Slayton will be back. I don't know if the Giants need to go out there and go after a ton of wide receivers. I think if they get a star number one, a good number one, like a Pittman or a Higgins, you have a good number one right there, and then you draft somebody in the second round or third round to kind of fill in, because they still have Robinson. They really like him when they drafted him. Wan'Dale Robinson, who got hurt. He was a second-round draft pick for the Giants. He's another weapon that they could use. And maybe they decide, hey, you know what? We have Wan'Dale. Let's trade Sterling Shepard and try to get something back for Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can get back for him, but you maybe get a fourth for him, a fifth. And
probably a fifth coming off the injury.
And then maybe you could decide what you're doing with that. But I think when you look at where the Giants are in the position that they are, is their schedule next year going to be hard? It's going to take a while for the NFC to rejuvenate and regenerate talent, because they've all the star quarterbacks are in the AFC now.
Right.
So if you look at where the Giants are and you look at where the Jets are, I would worry as a Jet fan, because you have the AFC. You still have to deal with Patrick Mahomes. You still have to deal with, obviously, Bill Belichick in the same division. You have Josh Allen. You have Miami and Tua. There's just, I don't know if Tua will be there next year. It could be Tom Brady there next year. I don't know. We've heard stories that Tom Brady was, talking to the owner last year before he decided, 2 years ago, when he was talking before he decided to go to the Buccaneers. So there's so many other. Lamar Jackson, he could be available this year. Does he stay in the AFC, or does the Baltimore Ravens franchise him and then trade him to the NFC? So and then they don't have to deal with him and they never have to see him. So there's a lot of things that could happen this offseason, just like last season. If you remember, and I'm just speaking for the Jets, when the Jets were going into the offseason last year, everybody said they were far, far away from being a good team. Far, far away. And then they had one of the best drafts in a long, long time. They added Garrett Wilson, and they added Sauce Gardner, and then they added Jermaine Johnson, and then they added Clemens, and then Breece Hall, and all these guys that they added. And they were big momentum boosters for the New York Jets. Now, obviously, what we see in the last 5 games of the season, they did not play well, but they still have pieces that they can build on. They still have talent that they can build on going into next season. So when you look at the big picture, when you look at the Giants and the Jets, I would say that the Giants are positioned in a better state because they're in the NFC. Besides the Eagles this year, as good as the Cowboys' numbers look, and we've seen what the Cowboys could do, their defense against good teams have really looked bad in the second half. So I don't know if I trust the Cowboys in a big game, and I still don't know what Dak Prescott is in the big game. So, and you go with throughout the NFC. Tom Brady, is he staying in the NFC? Is he going to the AFC? Yep. Is he retiring? He just got a $350 million contract from Fox to be a broadcaster. And then you look at the San Francisco 49ers. As good as their defense is, how long are they going to be able to pay all those guys? So it could be a complete transition. And let's not talk about the Rams. We don't know what their quarterback position is going to be next year. And I don't want to hear about Baker Mayfield because he could be in so many different areas, and Baker's not good. And Cooper Kupp needs to stay healthy. There's so many what ifs with some of these teams. And is Seattle going to do what they did this year and put up the numbers they did with Geno Smith? I don't know. And is Geno Smith going to stay there next year, being that he's a free agent? Who knows? When we come back, we will be talking to Super Bowl, two-time Super Bowl champion running back, our friend Brandon Jacobs, and his soon-to-be five-star recruit son here on the Sports Loudmouths.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouths. Brandon Jacobs dancing, as you see in the camera. Remember, you can check out our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week. We have a Buffalo Bills show called The Herd. We have a Jets show. We got a betting show. We got all shows throughout the social media market. They are live shows. They're not podcasts, but if you missed the shows, you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts. But we have our first guest of the new year. We have spoken to him quite a few times, and I know a lot of people love this guy, Giants history. One of our guys over here, a big Giant fan. We are now talking to two-time Super Bowl champion running back Brandon Jacobs and his soon-to-be star college recruit son, Brayden Jacobs. What's up, Mr. Brandon?
And nothing much, man. Just here in the middle of a move right now, going from one house to another. But things are going great, man. Happy New Year to you guys, and I hope all is well. I hope your New Year bring in much success, great health, and everything else you want.
You look
Happy
healthy.
New Year to you guys too.
Yeah, you look healthy. So does your son. I mean, you still look the same that you did when you played football 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So you look great. You really do.
I try my best, man. It's 2023 coming up. This is going to be my 10th year being out. I retired after the 2013 season. So 2023 season coming up is going to be my 10th year being done with the sport. Or 9th year, I guess I could say, being done with the sport. But, yeah, man, it's been a long time, man. Been, trying to work with this guy, make sure he get to where he want to go and make sure he knows what it takes to get to where he want to go, making sure he knows where he want to go. That type of stuff. So, I'm really proud and a proud father to be in a position and, just watch him grow and go through this whole recruiting thing. It's a totally different process now than what it was when I came out.
So before we get into the Giants, why don't we get in with your son? And Brayden, we heard a lot about you. You're 6'5". I think he
six and a half now.
Okay. You're a pretty big dude, and your father, speaks very highly of you. You're an offensive lineman. I think you were recruited by Kent State, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Ken? Was it what was the school?
Kansas State, Alabama.
State.
He got offers from. Go ahead, man.
Like he said, Kansas State, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, NC State. There's a couple. There's a lot of other schools too.
Oh, yeah, he's Power 5 teams. I love it.
3 SEC powerhouses.
Yes, you want to hear that, and those are and if you're getting full scholarships, and we have a guy out here named Preston Carey who is a freshman, All-American freshman, and this kid he's a big dude like you, but looking at what your father has done in the NFL and winning 2 Super Bowls, he was a big part of the Giants Super Bowl championship. The pedigree that you have moving forward is pretty unique. And what made you as a young kid decide to be an offensive lineman from the other positions you could have played?
Well, it wasn't really like a decision to play O-line. It was just where I fit in. I've always been a bigger kid. So my first year of football, they put me on the O-line and I ended up loving it.
So what is you told us the recruitment updates with the 5 schools. Also, we've seen very actively the transfer portal this offseason as well. So again, when you do end up making your decisions, do you have other backup plans in mind of maybe schools not recruiting you now, but also could look at you if you talk with any other coaches?
Well, once I decide where I'm going, I don't really want to have a backup plan because if I have to transfer, then I might not then no one might take me and I might be stuck. So I want to go to a college and stay.
Well, that's really
good commitment. Yeah, that's for sure.
But when you hear some of these players, they knowing that there's a transfer portal, they don't want to play for this coach this year. They go to another coach. They want to win a national championship. We are talking to Giants 2-time Super Bowl champion running back Brandon Jacobs and his son Brayden Jacobs. Brayden, when you look at the game and how it's changed, and you saw how your father played, he was a pounder, he guy that pounded everybody at the line of scrimmage. The game has changed. You have these running backs that do all these different things in the open field. They catch the ball, they run up the gut, they do all these different things. As an offensive lineman, what is it like, blocking for these guys?
Well, it's really your one job: block for the running back and pass block for your quarterback. If you don't do that, then I don't know what you're doing there.
So on your recruiting journey, from both of your perspectives, so do you have is there one particular coach or player that really stood out to get that recruiting process in, and the experience? What were some of those like?
Well, coming up, all these coaches, there's coaches that know how to recruit and there's some that don't know how to recruit. Some look at it as a job and a business, and some coaches take it personal as far as who they recruit and build relationships with. You got coaches that'll talk to you and make you feel like they're your kid. I mean, you're his kid and he cares about you, right? That's one of the guys you want to kind of be with. I think Kirby Smart and a lot of those guys over there at Georgia does a great job with connecting with a lot of these players. Tennessee does a great job of connecting with a lot of these players and parents, and being a place. Even LSU does a really good job on connecting with these players and making them feel like, this is the place for you. As a parent, I want to send my son somewhere that he has help, number one. Like for me, I'm from Louisiana, so if my son were to tell me he wanted to go to LSU, I got tons of people down there to look after him, right? But for a guy like myself, I want my kid to be close in case he gets drunk one night and punch a glass and cut an artery, and here we got to drive 2 hours to a place, unlike waiting on a flight to take off early morning to go to a place like Oregon or USC. It's going to be a little difficult to be able, to get there, when you got such a bad tragedy that's happening. So either it's close or somewhere where I know tons of people. So, so as a parent, that's kind of, what you want. And a lot of these coaches, man, some of them treat it as a job. Hey, well, I don't get you, move on to the next guy, which they all do that, but they all make it a point to make a lot of these kids and parents feel like, your son is going to be safe here with me. I'm going to look out for him. I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to make sure he's good type thing. So, man, I just want my kid to be able to go somewhere where he is, number one, wanted, and number one, somewhere cared about, and somebody got his back if the shit get hot,
Brayden, your father played for the Giants. Did you grow up a Giant fan?
Yeah, I was kind of just born into it, but I don't really remember much from him playing because I was so young.
Yeah, I think the game is completely different from when he played, and with the new rule changes and the protection for, obviously CTE, we speak to a lot of players, and after watching that just horrendous thing that happened on Sunday for Damar Hamlin suffering that scary cardiac arrest, it scares you. I mean, Brandon, your father, and I'm sure his family, Damar's family, watching that on national TV and watching their son just fall over like that. It's scary. What were your thoughts when you watched that on national TV?
It was scary, but because it made me think to myself, like, this is the sport I want to go play, and these are some of the risks of me playing that sport. But it's a sport that can make me a lot of money and give me a lifetime worth of just like living after retirement.
How about you, Brandon? What did you think watching Damar fall like that?
It was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Being a guy that played the sport, there's a lot of guys that out there played, and a lot of guys that's lucky enough to get through it. It's such a terrible situation. I send my best wishes out to his family and him. Hope he can, I hope he can pull through this thing and be, and be able to live a normal life. It's definitely scary. I talked to my wife about it. This is what our kids want to do.
Yeah.
They understand the risks that take place on the football field. They understand the after you're done risk as well. Being able to walk, being able to think straight, being able to communicate with people on a certain level. They understand the risk that's involved, right? If this kid were to go out there and play the game and something were to happen where he got hit and died, I'm not going to say I regret him playing. I'm not going to say that because I don't. This is something that, this is opportunity that was created for himself, and this is a decision that we all made. So this is a part of the risk that comes with it, If we were to have, and we got a youngest son as well, he's 12. If he goes out there and something happens to him, we're not going to make the youngest stop playing. It's just all about, this is the risk that you assume, and this is what can come from it. I know that as your dad, your mom knows as your mom, and, everyone around you know it, and this is what comes from it. We can't blame no one else for it, and this is what we got. So we're going to go out here and we're going to kick ass, and we're going to be as successful as we're going to be until we can't no more.
So a lot of it was so a lot was criticized with the NFL with the way they handled the whole thing. They eventually canceled the game, but it took them a lot longer than it should have in a lot of ways. And you look at the Bills and the Bengals players as a whole, and even across the league, just all the grievances, all the prayers being sent to Damar Hamlin, and just really a whole community support. So what do you think is the next steps for the NFL, both this season and also long term, to help these players get protected better?
Well, I'm not sure the NFL can do much right now with helping these players get protected, man. But I say this, though. The NFL Players Union are piss poor, right? We sit out here and we play this game in front of millions of people every week. To not have permanent, a lifelong health insurance, to be able to go through, jump over hurdles and fight lions, tigers, and bears, and cut ourselves out of the stomach of a python to try to get disability from the NFL. They got their doctors who's on their side who's going to say you're fine, but a real doctor who don't know you from Adam is going to say you got problem, right? The NFL is a big business, it's a big mafia, and they want to make all the money that they can possibly make without having to reach down and help a lot of the players that's under them that has done it. A lot of former players, like guys come from, not even myself, guys that come before me. You got guys that come before me that don't have health insurance now because of their time was up, right? They 6 years, like in an ERA or whatever, the IRA account, whatever that shit is done, right? I think the NFL needs to do a better job with the billions of dollars that they make every year on making sure these guys, when they're done playing, are protected. Health insurance for me costs about $2,500 a month, right? That's about $2,500 a month. I mean, I know it's me. I mean, I know it's thousands of people that came through the NFL, right? But I think that they can do a better plan, and I think they can do a better job with making sure that these guys, like a lot of these former guys, are okay. Like at the end of the year, we're not making you much more money, right? But we made you enough to where you can at least be able to, we don't have to jump through hoops and all of this other shit to be able to get our disability when things go wrong, our workers' comp, like all of this. They fight us on all of this stuff, man, and I think it's terrible.
As everybody knows, we are talking to Giants two-time Super Bowl champion running back Brandon Jacobs and his son Brayden Jacobs, and it's crazy because I speak about it. I have taken shots at the NFL. They probably don't like me. Roger Goodell, who's making about $45 million a year, he's got benefits, long life benefits after he's done with the NFL. So does his kids, his family, and he has his own jet. So I understand how you feel. We've spoken to a lot of ex-NFL players, and they agree with you. It's not just you, Brandon. Every single one of them have said the NFL have struck out on this, and they have to figure something out. Not now, not tomorrow, not the next day, but now. So the game needs to be fixed in a lot of ways. The players union need to step up to the plate and protect the players that are putting their bodies and their lives on the line. So why don't we get into the Giants, Brandon? And the Giants have had a pretty good year for a team that really had no weapons. They lost Sterling Shepard early in the year. Kenny Golladay has been an absolute strikeout. I mean, you look at the big picture of where the Giants are. I'm surprised. I know their schedule fell in the right area and fell the right way for them. But what were your thoughts to Daniel Jones here? A lot of people are trying to tell him he's done. You need to be looking for a new quarterback. Is he the quarterback of the future of what you've seen now with Dable running this show?
I want you guys to sit and think about something when you're talking about Daniel Jones, okay? The offense been winning ugly games. They've been putting up ugly numbers. I mean, I don't think the Giants put up over 350 yards the whole season of total offense. But when people speak of DJ, they should take into consideration everything that comes with a guy who gives the ball to everybody else. Okay? Name one wide receiver on their team that you can call a go-to guy. Do you guys know one?
None. Darius Slayton's the third. He would be a third or fourth option on any other team.
On any other team, but right now he's a one option because that's what we got. Yeah. We gave $72 million to a big 6'3", 6'4", 200+ pound Kenny Golladay, who has
a bust?
Disappeared. Let's just say disappeared.
I mean, I don't want to call a guy a bust because certain systems and certain organizations are for certain people. But you can't go get a guy that's off the Lions team who's done good for the Detroit Lions, but still hadn't won any goddamn games, and give him $72 million. You don't do that. He hadn't won enough. Yeah, he had a great season. He hadn't won enough. You don't know what it's like to win. And he's always been in week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9. His season is over with. He never had to fight through. He never had to break down a brick wall at week 14, week 15 to make the playoffs. The Lions have never been anything. And I'm not taking a shot at Golladay. I'm just saying these guys who's going on paying these guys, they need to take into consideration everything. We want to give a guy $72 million, right? I think Daniel Jones is the quarterback for the New York Giants. Here's why. I mean, if you think about it, look at the passes he throws. He's an accurate guy. He's accurate as shit. And he can run. He can get out of the backfield. He can create time for himself. I think the offensive line did a decent job this year, later on in the season anyway, toward mid to later season, later on in the season. I thought he did great. And when they didn't do good, he bought himself some time on his feet. I think he rushed for 700 yards this year, 750 or something like that. Threw for 3,000, somewhere around there. Man, that's good stat.
Over 3,000 yards.
Yeah. Over 3,000 yards. And I think Daniel Jones is the quarterback for the New York Giants. Get the guy a weapon or two to go downfield. Get the guy an immediate weapon. And let's win the Super Bowl, man. And let's go get this thing, man. It's not hard.
Yep. It's a stat that I saw last week. There's 3 quarterbacks in the league, only 3 that have thrown for 3,000 and rushed for over 600 yards. Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. That's it.
Okay.
Not even Lamar Jackson, not even Patrick Mahomes have done that.
Right. So in saying that, they talking about Jalen Hurts is MVP.
Right.
All right. And he's in the top with 2 of the top guys in the league. How could you not get this man credit? And still, they both of those teams that quarterbacks you mentioned has downfield threats. Has downfield threats. We don't have that. And Daniel Jones is still mentioned. They gotta respect DJ, man. They gotta respect him. And he's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback, and I really think that he can be so much better. And I think the Giants' record can be so much better if they had another wide receiver who can actually be a threat on every single down. I thought the defense played tremendous. Other than a few weeks, I thought Philadelphia the first time they played them, and the second time I think they played Dallas. I think those were the 2 worst games defensively that we played. I think everything else there was in the game, and I thought the defense played well. I say leave the defense like it is. You know, I think our DBs are good who started off the season rough. I think they're good. Get this man a wide receiver, pay Saquon, pay Daniel, whatever you can pay him, and find out a way where you can find your way around Kenny Galladay's contract, the way you can give more people some money.
Before I get to my question, I did mention the last time we had you on the show, my brother actually had your jersey when he was a kid, and since I was there, I figured I'd bring it for this.
Nice. 7%, baby. Hey, I call those guys 7%ers, man. 7%ers. I call everybody who buy Brandon Jacobs jersey the 7%er. Know why? Because we get 7% of those sales that day.
Yes.
7%ers. But we always appreciate those guys, man. I appreciate all the people who supported me like over the years. I love each and every one of you. You know, let's keep going, man.
Yep. So my question is about Saquon, actually. So you were very high on him every time we've had you on the show, saying that he's going to bounce back and be an elite running back, and he's definitely been that this year. So again, with the contract now coming up, upcoming, what do you think the Giants will end up paying him per year and also years wise?
I have no idea. I do know it's going to be short term. When I mean short term, I say 4 years max. Say 4 years, about 50, 55 million, maybe 25 of those 50 guaranteed, or 55 guaranteed. I think they'll be able to finagle that by, as far as the cap is concerned. I think they give Daniel Jones another short-term contract as well.
No, I agree with you. I think when you look at Saquon Barkley and the season that he has, he deserves all the money. And I believe he'll have probably between $25 and $28 million guaranteed, as well as he should. And we'll see if he lives out that 3 to 4 year contract. Because that's what I think he's going to have, a 3 to 4 year contract. They're not going to extend him any longer. Running backs don't play that long in the, you know that, Brandon.
Yeah.
An average running back, 3 to 4 years in the NFL. Yeah. 2 years.
2.5.
Really? So there you go. So there you go. And Brandon, you were in the league for a long, long time. So give you a lot of credit for what you did as a player. As everybody knows, we are talking to 2-time Super Bowl champion running back Brandon Jacobs and his son, Brayden Jacobs, who just took a step back, let his father take over. But Brandon, we go back and forth with the Jets, and I know you're not a Jets fan. You don't like the Jets. What were your thoughts on what happened to the Jets in the second half of the season? And do you think they should stick, as well as what you've heard from Adam Schefter today, saying they're going to stick with Zach Wilson, they're behind Zach Wilson. Do you think the organization should or should be looking elsewhere for a quarterback in the offseason?
I like Zach, man. I think Zach is a good quarterback with with great confidence. I do know he has great confidence. Wow, he's around here sleeping with all these milfs, but but I had to say it. I had to say it, man. Lucky guy. But
he is a lucky guy.
But I think he's a good quarterback. I think the Jets should stick with him. I mean, them benching him. I mean, he was 5-2 when they benched him.
Yeah,
I guess a starter. They benched him over, I guess, him not taking blame for by putting pressure on the defense, or the offense could be more successful, or whatever it was, and they benched him because he didn't answer that question correctly. I think that's a piss poor reason to bench your friend, your quarterback who you just drafted, up there. And I mean, I think the guy's a good quarterback. He got, I'm a fan of him, and I think he is the guy for the Jets. I mean, I thought the Jets had a pretty decent season, more, better than what they used to having. Way better than what they used to having. So I mean, I think you're going to 23 with him.
I'm surprised you're complimenting them, because the last time you won, you weren't too fond of them.
I'm going to compliment a team that need to be complimented.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not a hater.
I got you.
One team across the way that kind of try to, you know what I mean? I'm not. I mean, the Giants
I got you.
are not.
He was high on Sauce last time he was on the show.
You were.
Yeah, Sauce is a beast. I mean, Sauce could be one of the best corners in the league right now.
Could be one of the greatest to ever play by the time he's done.
Think about it. I mean, Sauce he had to cover some guys this year, man.
Yeah.
And he's done a good job. I mean, he still hadn't given up much. If you go through his season, it's not much different than what it was last year. He didn't give up a whole bunch. But I say I like what the Jets have done as far as the coach is concerned. A lot of the moves they made as far as roster wise. I think the future is very bright for the New York Jets, and like I said, I don't really like them, but I'm not going to sit up here and say certain things about them because I don't like them. I'm also
I do know a team that you absolutely hate over there in Dallas. They have a chance to actually fall in first place by the end of the season. If the Eagles lose, if San Francisco loses, and Minnesota loses, and the Cowboys win, they could actually move up to the number 1 seed in the NFC. What are your thoughts to that?
I mean, I hate the Dallas Cowboys with a passion. I take my gun and shoot it in the air at any star I see. Right? But they're a good football team. They got a good defensive outfit. They got a good offensive outfit. They got their wide receivers crazy. They got 2 good running backs. Got an offensive line that's out of this world. Man, I wouldn't be shocked if I saw Dallas playing in the Super Bowl this year. It's just me gonna be honest. I hate them, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were to make it all the way. I mean, they beat the Eagles, who are the number 1 team. They beat them, good. No controversial calls, no cheating, no one way or another. Nothing could. No one could say rigged. They beat them mano y mano. Once they done that, I mean, you got Minnesota Vikings. They went there and put 40-something points on the Vikings in Minnesota.
Don't worry.
I wouldn't be sitting here telling you.
Don't worry. Even if Dallas does get the 1 seed, you know a thing or two about them losing in the first playoff.
Dallas didn't beat Jalen Hurts. They did go pound for pound, but they didn't beat Jalen Hurts.
Dallas did not beat Jalen Hurts. I would agree with that 100%.
Yes,
I would agree with that 100%.
I think it would have been a different game.
Next man up, though, man. Next man up. You got one guy now, which is a quarterback, is a big deal. But I mean, come on, man. At the end of the day, he should find a way to get to. You're needed. Find a way to line that shit up and play ball.
All right, my last question is: with the Giants' current playoff scenarios, they could play one of those 4 teams. Which team are you most afraid of playing, and which would you want to play most?
I'm most afraid of whatever can happen to make us fall to go to San Francisco. I'm afraid of that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm afraid of that. I don't want that one. But we can beat Minnesota.
All right.
Yeah. We can beat Minnesota. Minnesota had a full deck of cards a couple weeks ago, and we were on their asses, which we should have won the game. The Giants can beat Minnesota. I'm not so sure about San Francisco, but the Giants can beat Minnesota. I'd rather the Giants play Minnesota in Minnesota, beat them, and go to Dallas if that's the case, and beat them. I see that happening.
And we've seen that. The Bengals last year, everything fell together for them, how they went from one team to everything fell together for them to go to the Super Bowl. So maybe if the Giants get lucky and the matchups, obviously match up very well for them, they could go all the way to the NFC title game. There's no question they can. And anything could happen because a team can lose their quarterback or somebody gets hurt. Or maybe a team's not playing. Team's not playing well. So we've seen this before. The Giants did it twice. So it's amazing. And you did beat San Francisco in the NFC title game. So I remember that. And I remember Eli getting beaten the hell up. And he still found a way. Yeah, I remember that game.
We all got destroyed. They got destroyed too. That was a knockdown, drag-out game. But once you get to the NFC Championship game, anything can happen, man.
Well,
anything can happen in the NFC Championship game.
Before we let you go, I didn't forget our bet the last time we had you on the show. So remember, next year, before the Jets play the Giants, I don't know when that's going to fall. It'll probably fall, I would say, week 8 or week 9. Whoever has the better record, you're going to have to take me and Speedy and your son to the game, and we go to see the Jets and the Giants on you. But if the Giants have a better record than the Jets, by whenever they play, I take you and your son, and I'm going to get fantastic seats. Me, you, Speedy, and your son are going to go to a Giant Jets game next year. What do you say?
That's a bet.
That's a bet. I know it's a bet, and I'm going to stick to my bet. I always do. Always.
Don't worry. I'll bring the jersey. It won't fit me. I won't wear it, but I'll definitely bring it.
Brandon, we really appreciate your time. Tell your son Brayden we wish him all the luck. We will support everything he does, and we'd love to get you guys back on the show very, very soon. And we'll talk to you soon, man.
Well, sounds good, man. Hey, guys, thanks. Hey, thanks for having me and my boy on, man. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Hey, Happy New Year to you guys.
Happy New Year to you guys.
You look good, man. Do whatever you're doing.
Fine, man.
And safe travel wherever you're moving to. Are you getting a bigger house?
We're moving to Beaufort, Georgia. Beaufort is one of the top tier programs in the state of Georgia. One of the top in the country as well. I think my boy needs to be there, so that's where we go.
Oh, is that a little slip
Kirby
right
Smart,
there?
you listening?
Is that a what?
Is that a little information that you don't want to give us?
No, I mean Beaufort. I mean it's been known by everybody. I mean Beaufort Wolves is like they got up to number 6 in the nation last year. They lost one game in the playoffs, which was the wrong game to lose. Should have won a state championship easy. They didn't because they lost the wrong game. But I'm bringing some guys that's gonna be able to get them over that hump and go as mono. It's iron sharpen iron. There's a bunch of iron over at Beaufort that's in coaches and players that I think it's just gonna be able to make my son better. To go to the next level.
Jersey to Georgia. The Jacobs are heading down to the Big G, and maybe.
Oh no! We've been in Georgia. I haven't lived in Jersey since 2013.
Oh, really? I thought you were in Jersey. So there you go. But that makes it even better. I mean, that might be a toss right there to Kirby Smart over there.
Yep.
A little
if we was in Jersey, probably my boy would probably go to Don Bosco or DePaul Catholic.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know exactly.
Like one of those 2 schools.
Yeah, I know exactly what school that is, and I've been down there. I've talked to a lot of recruits from that school. So, man, we really appreciate the time as always. You're awesome. We'll get you on soon, and I'm going to stick to that bet, man. That bet is
I got you.
Embedded. You're going to fly up here. Hey, listen, I'll even take you out to dinner if the Giants have a better record than the Jets next year. I will take you out to a nice dinner and a Giants-Jets game. Okay.
Well, what makes you think the Giants are going to have a better record than the Jets next year? Why is this a bet? Why? Why?
Because I think the Jets are going to have a better record than the Giants.
No, I'm saying why don't you just pay out this bet this summer before the season?
Because we're going to go to a Giant-Jet game. There's only one Giant-Jet game every 4 years. So there you go.
I think it's next year. So okay.
That's right. That's right.
You can't pay it out like this summer. So
That's right. That's right.
So the bet is whoever have a better record at the time of the game.
At the time to the game, yes. Giants or Jets. If the Giants have a better record, you got to take us to the Giants-Jets game.
So if it's week 8 and we're 5-2.
Yes, and the Jets are.
I got you.
Yes,
I got you.
4. If the Jets
4
are 4. Yes,
I got you.
The Giants have the better record. I take you to the game. Now, if the Jets have the better record, you got to take me and Speedy and your son to the Giants-Jets game, and you're gonna have to wear a hat or something.
The only difference is in this bet that you're gonna have to probably pay for tickets, and I'm not.
Hey, I don't care. And by the way, I have press passes, so.
Oh, okay.
So I might not have to pay for the tickets.
That's good. Well, that's good shit. Then no one's wasting no time outside of the dinner.
There you go. I'm going to take you to dinner no matter what. You guys come up here. Winner, how about this? Even if you have to pay for the tickets, I'll still take you out to dinner. How's that sound?
Plan to me, man.
All right, there you go. There's the bet. Me and Brandon Jacobs, our bet lies to next year. Jets, Giants, whoever has the better record at the time they meet. Brandon, thank you. Tell your son, Brayden, thank you for all the time. As always, we love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We were just talking to two-time Super Bowl champion running back Brandon Jacobs, his son. Big guy, man.
Yep.
He's big, man.
Yeah,
I mean, sitting next to his father.
6 foot 5.5 now.
He's like 15 years old, man. He's bigger than his father.
Yep.
6'6", man. I mean, anyways, when we come back, we will be talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Draft. He's been waiting patiently, and we'll have him on here on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next-door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
631-672-3108 is the number. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy PD. Remember, you can go and check out our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out our Twitter, worldwide?
At WWSRN_radio.
There you go. I'm sorry. _radio. You could also check out our Instagram, WWSRN_radio, and our Facebook, WWSRN_radio. Check out all our shows, live shows throughout the week, from our Buffalo Bills show, our Jets show, our betting show, our show. We're going to have so many new shows this year, so definitely stay tuned. And I want to thank Brandon Jacobs and Brayden Jacobs joining us. And now we have another guest who played in the NFL for 12 years. I love his story. We are now talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Draft. Chris, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Just listening to you guys jam with Brandon a little bit, and giving love to Georgia, since I live down here in Atlanta also.
Oh, good. So you can hang out with Brandon and go check out his son, who's a behemoth. I heard he's like 6'6", 260 pounds. The kid's 15 years old. This guy's a 5-star recruit. He's got Georgia looking at him. He's got Alabama looking at him. LSU looking at him. I mean, it's ridiculous. These kids are getting looked at 15. When you were playing in high school, were you getting looked at the age of 15 years old?
They would look at you. They would look at you. But I think there's way more attention in terms of that looking now, where you have more visibility of young people. So it's not just, say, some scouts that saw you or something like that, or there was a paper that saw it. Now people can see you on social media, and they're like, holy crap, that dude really can play. And you can see it all over the place. So if there was somebody amazing in Georgia, people in California can see them, people in Cali can see the folks in Jersey. Real easy versus just kind of speculating on how good are they.
Well, how are you and your family doing? We haven't. This is the first time you've been on a show. COVID was going around for 2 years. How are you and your family doing from all of that craziness over the last couple of years?
Well, it definitely created challenges in certain ways, but I think with so many things, when you take a football mindset to a problem, really looking more at the things that you can control rather than worrying about the things that you can, it helps get you through. And so there was some real opportunities with the cancer advocacy work that I do to use technology and actually bring a community together that much greater, because as I was going around before physically meeting people, so much of the issue was not that I physically met them, but I wanted them to meet everybody else, and I needed them to talk and build relationships consistently. And the only way that could happen was through using technology. And even though I wanted it to happen, it only could happen when it was forced to happen. And so, that was a silver lining of cancer advocacy unfortunately, with the pandemic.
As everybody knows, we are talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Draft.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask you about your foundation. I know you've done a lot of research and different events with lung cancer, I believe it is.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So again, what have you been able to accomplish, and some of the experiences you've had at doing all that throughout your foundation, and what are the stories that you would try to promote to spread awareness?
Awesome, man. It's crazy. We've been talking about trauma, man, and really transitioned based on what happened to Damar with the Buffalo Bills just on Monday night. And it's made it where not just that conversation, but really, it's made it where a lot of guys that have been able, been able to talk about this trauma that's happened in their life. And I say that based on the fact that when someone asked about my transition out of the game. So I played 12 years, 13 was with the Redskins at the time in training camp and got released. So I was at home. And in December of 2010, my then girlfriend, my future wife, got diagnosed with lung cancer. She was in amazing shape, again, no history of smoking, challenging me to do P90X and run a 10K race. I mean, she was this amazing shape. And out of nowhere, had a little shortness of breath, went into her primary care doc, and they found, through an x-ray, they found a mass in her left lung. And basically right after Christmas, so when you guys, like Christmas time is totally different for me, and that the 2 days after Christmas in 2010 is when we confirmed that she had a mass in her lung and that it was lung cancer. New Year's is like the PET scan right after the New Year is knowing that it's stage 4 lung cancer. The other thing is then she passed on December 27th, 2011. And so, these dates, these holidays are really different. But also we got a chance to get married November 27th, 2011.
Congratulations.
And that's really, and that was, in 2011. That's where our advocacy really was able to move forward. And that is when my wife came to me before that day and said, what if we don't get presents? What if we ask our family and friends to support the foundation at that time as we create an initiative that is focused on changing the face of lung cancer and fighting for the lung cancer community. And so it's, in that vein that, that I've continued the work that was started by my wife with her commitment, that really was a commitment to knowing that it takes a team to be able to make a difference. And it's kind of crazy because I know about team by being an NFL player. And so many people, they say, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I got to go get my team in alignment. And if we want to have a great team, we got to go find captains. And so the first year I went to 60 cancer centers to find those captains of the medical community. And then also at the same time, taking survivors to games to find our captains as it relates to our survivors and our advocates. And getting a consensus that says if we want things to change, are we willing to stand up and fight for it? And so that's really been our mission of changing the face of lung cancer, is letting people know that anyone can get it, understanding that screening is an option for certain people. We need to max that out. Incidental nodules, we need to max that out. That there are treatment options that people are doing tremendously well on, and we need to make sure everybody that can benefit from it gets it. We need to think about access as it relates to clinical trials, the importance of research, and then more than anything, we just need to love people where they are and help guide them through this traumatic experience that's called cancer.
We are talking to 12-year NFL ex-vet linebacker Chris Draft. And Chris, fantastic at what you're doing with everything, all the money that you're raising for cancer. And that's a crazy story. And the fact that your wife has gone through that and she's fine now, it's fantastic.
No, so I'm sorry on that. So she passed December 27, 2011.
I'm sorry.
It was only a year. It was a year after her diagnosis that she passed.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, let's say this: that she committed to understanding that it will be a team, and I give you that based on how football works. Is that when we commit and we know that something matters, we know it has to be greater. It has to live beyond any one particular player. And so my wife was this amazing player, but if the NFL mindset reminds us that we can always lose somebody, we need to, basically maximize the person while they're there, while they're willing to stand, as she was willing to do, but also acknowledge that they can pass. But the movement has to continue.
Well, I will tell you this: you're a strong man, and to go through what you went through, and then come out of it and do what you're doing, raising money for that. Just amazing, foundation. I give you a lot of credit. It's a great story.
Thank you.
Let's get into your career, and you had a very interesting career. You played 12 years. You played for a lot of different NFC teams. You played for Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta, Carolina, St. Louis, and Washington. You did play for the Buffalo Bills. But you were drafted by the Chicago Bears, and the Bears for years, they know how to draft linebackers. They really do. And we can go up and down the list of great linebackers that they've had over the years. And running backs, by the way. What was it like being drafted? Obviously, you were drafted in the sixth round, 157th overall. What was it like hearing your name in 1998?
Well, it's exciting because it's finally here. I mean, it's your dream to be able to play, and then and it's a reality. And it's the Chicago Bears. The people that grew up across the street from me in Anaheim were from Chicago, and so one of the guys was like my older brother, and so even though I grew up in Anaheim, California, I knew the Chicago Bears. I knew the '85 Bears. I had to understand the importance of the Super Bowl Shuffle. There was nobody better than Sweetness. If you talk to him, that was it. Walter Payton is absolutely the man. But again, when you have a Bears fan, nobody can touch Sweetness. So being drafted was it was real. But at the same time, it's not just being drafted, because what that does is tell you where you're going to go live, but really more where you're going to go compete. And so, it's this, kind of, yes, it happened and I'm going to Chicago, but yes, I'm going to Chicago and I got to go compete, because the only way to stay in Chicago is I got to go establish myself and go get it. And so I would say that's the hard part of that, that transition is, yes, it's a great thing. And that's what, people talk about, but it's not a done thing, because, the greatness of the NFL is the competition. That's what makes the teams better. Brandon talked about iron sharpens iron. That's why he was taking his son to Beaufort, Georgia. Well, that is the NFL. Iron sharpens iron. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there's not enough space for everybody. So some people are going to stay and some people are going to leave.
So you actually played in Carolina for a couple of years with Thomas Davis, a guy that's battled a lot throughout his career too. He was a young player when you were there. I think he was a rookie.
Fantastic linebacker, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic. A guy that's gone through a lot. So what was he like as a teammate on and off the field? And,
so TD was my rookie. He was one of my rookie in 2005, and he's from Georgia. So he definitely was a Falcons fan growing up, and so the first mini camp he walked up on me, kind of came right to the side of me, and he said, "Mr. Dre, you are my favorite player with the Falcons." And needless to say that I think I was about 29 at the time. If you want to feel old, well, that's a good way to feel a little bit old. That's what I'm gonna say. Hey, Thomas, you just call me Chris, man. We'll be all right. But it was amazing just to see him evolve. I mean, his athleticism just was undeniable. And just his heart and grit that people were able to see when he came back from injuries, and then just his evolution as it relates to connecting with the community, where people got to see this passion for the game early, but then they got to see the passion for community as he grew as a Panther and as a Charger, that culminated with him being the man of the year. And so, I mean, I can't be more happy for him. I mean, he's done just tremendous work. He's been married for a while now, kids, and just, I mean, really has took advantage of being able to play the game, enjoy the game, and really love the people that were around him while he was playing.
Now you played for prestige, colleges, prestige NFL teams. You played for Chicago, San Francisco, even St. Louis and Washington. There are four dominant teams over the years, from the 80s and the 90s, and slowly moved up. And even when you played for Chicago and San Francisco, your longest stint was in Atlanta. And what was it like playing for 4 years in a place that you grew up? Well, you grew up in Anaheim, but
I grew up in California, but Atlanta's special, brother. Atlanta is absolutely special. So I grew up, and unfortunately, most people don't want to understand. They don't want to know your other dreams. Right. So they only can think of the dream of playing in the NFL and see that as something that is from way back. They've always wanted to be, this NFL player, but. For me, I've always wanted to do social change, so to be in Atlanta, the home of the civil rights movement, to build a relationship with Dr. King's daughter, to get to know and speak to civil rights leaders that walked with Dr. King, that knew him, that, you can get firsthand, kind of conversations that they've had. It's amazing. So I would say it's special to play here in Atlanta, and definitely to be able to play closer to home. That would have been great, but San Diego was the only place, because there were no LA teams, at that time, and that's the closest to Anaheim. But it was also, so I say, Atlanta was great. I mean, and really at the end of the day, you got to go where they want you. You got to go where you fit.
Of course.
And they, the Falcons had this amazing guy who had just knocked the crap out of people for a long time in Jesse Tuggle. And so I was never much taller than, I say 6 feet tall. Sometimes they tried to say 5'11". I'm not going to be much bigger than 235. Most of the time I waited at 232. So it was like, if you want somebody taller, that's not me. If you want somebody bigger, that's not me. But if you want a guy that's going to give you everything, that's going to put all of this 232 on somebody, that's what you'll get. And for certain teams that maybe they didn't really get that. But for Atlanta, when you have a guy like Jesse who had just absolutely brought the thunder, or brought the hammer, since that was his nickname. And you guys know that's not a nickname that you can give to yourself.
No.
I mean, you can't say, man, I just hit somebody. I'm the hammer. All right. You can't do that. That is an earned nickname that only people what do they talk about on your wallet that says bad mother on it? Only somebody that has that kind of wallet can call themselves the hammer. And again, it's not that they call themselves that. It is somebody else said, you know what you are? You are a hammer.
We were talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Drafton. Let me ask you a question. And Dan Reeves was very respected around the league, one of the more respectable coaches that you've heard over the years. You got a chance to play for him, and Michael Vick, you get to be a teammate for him for a couple of years. What was it like playing with Michael Vick, and what was it like playing for, Dan Reeves?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off with Coach Reeves first, and you think of a guy that really has a pedigree as it relates to the NFL, from being a player for the Dallas Cowboys, and then being a coach, learning from a Tom Landry. Landry comes from that Giants family where he coached with Vince Lombardi, so you have this great legacy that he transitioned in the coaching of the Denver Broncos and the Giants, and then down to Atlanta. So I think there was a huge amount of history that he was able to bring, a huge amount of knowledge, and I guess again, so much of this game is about just knowing the history and being able to evolve, because you have so much knowledge of what's happened before you. So I would say that definitely an old school guy that got after it. I mean, the only thing that I can say is that he was an offensive coordinator, and so the unfortunate part of being a defensive guy on his teams was that how it works. If the defense had a good practice, especially as it relates to training camp, as we're going against each other, then it was never a good practice. The only way it was a good practice is if the offense had a good practice. So it would kind of create this little bit of tension. But football is all about tension, right? So got to say that again. What an honor to be able to play under Dan Reeves for 4 years. But now I'll transition to Mike Vick. All right, Mike Vick. We have a guy down here in Atlanta. There's a statue outside of the State Farm Arena, and Dominique Wilkins was called the human highlight film. All right, and I think you could basically put that name on Mike, on Vic. I mean, like that's what people, when they showed up, and they showed up all around. So not just here in Atlanta, when everybody showed up to a game, they thought like most amazing, athletically gifted, just ridiculous type people that I might see something out here at the stadium and I'm going to see it. Everybody watching, you're going to get at least a 5-second or 10-second delay. But I'm going to physically see it where I can say I was there on the day that he ran in overtime in Minnesota, and he said, the game is just over. Let me hit that button, that burst button that says, you can't touch me. It's almost like MC Hammer is playing, you can't touch this as he's running. And the guys are saying, you know what? Dang, we can't. So that's what Mike. I mean, at any time you can see something amazing, and he literally scared a lot of people, because of his skill set. Really made them question. I think when you talk about greatness, there's folks like Mike that just absolutely scared people. I'll say that I had my rookie year was Barry Sanders last year, and as quiet as he is, you talk about walk softly and carry a big stick. Well, that is a Barry Sanders in that he didn't have to say nothing, but he scared the absolute HELL out of every team that he played against, right? So Mike was more flashy in terms of his energy about it, but a very similar type of feel that, oh my goodness, I can't miss this game. I've got to be there because I want to be there when he does something ridiculous, so I can say I was there when he did something ridiculous.
I'm sure playing against him in Carolina when you went there wasn't fun either.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. We actually won 3 out of 4 games when I was with Carolina. And just to be real, because I had played defense on Atlanta, and I told you that Coach Reeves was an offensive coach, and there was a little animosity as it relates to that. It meant that we didn't go live often. So for the Carolina Panthers, they were like, oh my goodness, we're going against the Falcons, because over the last 5 years, we had beat them 9 out of 10 times. But for me, coming from the Falcons, I was like, yes, we get to play the Falcons. So
I remember
totally different mindset.
Yeah, I remember you guys at 05 too, because as you say, I'm a Giants fan, and you guys shut us out in the playoffs that year, 23-0, and it was the NFC Championship game. Very impressive year. So we were talking about a lot of the different players you played against. What about a team offense? Is there any team offense that in particular was tough to play against? Who would it be and why?
Man, the greatest show on turf, brother. When the Rams were rolling. They had so many weapons. When you're looking at right now that Kurt Warner's already in the Hall of Fame, Marshall Faulk is already in the Hall of Fame, Isaac Bruce is already in the Hall of Fame, Torrey Holt is on his way to the Hall of Fame, Big O is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on, man, right? Like that's what? And then you throw in an Ozakeem and a Ricky Prohl, and now you've got this team that is just. When they were rolling, right? And so I would say that they, as an offense, was probably the scariest group. Again, especially when you put them on turf, and you let them go to work. I would say probably the scariest duo on turf. One would be, Randy Moss, in terms of he would just put that. When he's in Minnesota, he'd throw that arm up, and Donovan McNabb or even Randall Cunningham early on. He said, "Just throw it. You can't out throw me. Just throw it. I'll go get it." Also I was thinking about, because I was at the semifinals game between Ohio State and Georgia, and
really?
Marvin Harrison Jr. was out there, and I was thinking about how one of the most impressive things I had seen while I was playing was Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison running full speed routes before warmups with Peyton Manning. And I've shared that story with a number of young quarterbacks and whatnot. My nephew's actually a quarterback, so they can really appreciate that as amazing as Peyton Manning was, that it's not without him just having a great relationship with his players, where timing is not something that he just had because his dad played in the league and because he had been around so many people, but timing was because the trust of him and a Marvin Harrison, where Marvin is running full speed routes before the game. So when they drop it down and that catch seems easy, it's because they put in the work to make that happen.
Oh, he had a lot of weapons too, Peyton Manning. He had Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James, and great offensive line too. Dallas Clark too. And Peyton Manning, he was the guy. He was the quarterback. He was the captain on the field. But you need good weapons. You need players. It wasn't just Peyton Manning. Even as what makes Aaron Rodgers, and I'll say this: people forget how special Aaron Rodgers is, and you have to watch the game to to understand what he has to do week in and week out to get his team ready. He doesn't have we were just talking to Brendan Jacobs, talking about obviously Daniel Jones in the season he had. Go look who Aaron Rodgers was throwing to this year. I mean, his best wide receiver was ranked 142nd in all of the league. So just look at the numbers he was putting up, and everybody says, "Oh, he's fallen off. He's not the same quarterback." 2 years, for 2 years, back-to-back years, he was the MVP. How after 1 year he's not the star quarterback he was the year before? Yeah. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. You play with these quarterbacks.
It's the problem of not going to Super Bowl. I mean, and then at times he just rubs people the wrong way. I would just say that's more what it is. I mean, he just rubs them, and so it might get in the way of really, again, how amazing he is. The other side is that sometimes when people are just absolutely, when they're just amazing players, that you get used to it, right? And until somebody else is standing in that position, you really don't appreciate how good he is. You don't appreciate the touch that he has and his ability to throw a ball. Like, not much fall off at all. I mean, just understands the touch, positioning, all of that. And then the relationship with the head coach, it seemed at first was going to just tear the team apart. All of a sudden, hold up, took it to another level.
Well, who's the best quarterback you ever played against, and why?
Man, that's a hard question. I played against Tom Brady, played against Peyton Manning, played against Aaron Rodgers, and so I guess again that's a hard question, because when you're talking about just sorry, if you're talking about quarterbacking, as it is also part of a team, right? So definitely, I would say Peyton was amazing. But again, nothing, the greatness of them as quarterbacks, of him and the Tom Brady, are really what they can get out of their team and the team that they're a part of. So from their coaching and their whole system that's around them. So I would have to say definitely Tom, again, the greatest winning quarterback ever. Peyton Manning right there with them. And then what you've already saw, with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, his numbers and everything that he's done is ridiculous. Again, I had the blessing of playing with Steve Young, with the 49ers. So, again, you're splitting hairs in terms of who's just the best. I mean, you could win with all those guys. Yeah.
So I want to ask you this, because you say you grew up in Southern California, and you played in St. Louis with the Rams too. So the Rams moving to LA. So what was your reaction at the time? And how do you think the experiment has gone so far? Obviously winning a Super Bowl, and St. Louis too. Do you think they could get another team again?
I don't know if St. Louis will get another team. I mean, they'll take a lot to be able to get that done. I mean, the NFL is pretty stuck on the 32 because it evens things up. I mean, one of the greatest things that happened in this game was, evening up at 32 and cleaning up the NFC Central, where you don't have Tampa Bay playing with Detroit and Chicago and Minnesota and Green Bay. And even like the NFC West. The NFC West, when I first came in, was San Francisco, St. Louis, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Carolina. That was the West, right? With only really one West team. So that was the best thing in terms of being able to align. But when you talk about the Rams moving to St. Louis, they actually moved when I went to Stanford. That's when they left. So I wasn't at home when they moved to St. Louis. But what a great opportunity. I think too often the history of the game can be lost in the fact that we clean up history, right? So we clean up visuals so that people don't really get to see these old stadiums that are mixed-use stadiums, that are just not good football stadiums. And, across the board, that's what it was. They don't realize that when I went to the Bears, that was the first year of Hallis Hall. And before Hallis Hall was at Lake Forest College, right? Before Atlantic Health, where the Jets are training, they were at Hofstra, right? So that's the NFL. This back in the day. So that when the Rams were in Anaheim, their facility was at an elementary school that they had. It was a kind of a school that wasn't in use, and that's what they used as their facility. And so their ability to go to St. Louis was that Georgia could actually cash out some of the money, but they gave them a facility. Like, it was an amazing facility, especially at that time, and continued to be a great facility. A football-only stadium, which right now just doesn't seem like, oh, wow. But at that time, a football-only stadium without dirt on it, with great sight lines, and the fans is close inside. I mean, what? And then Georgia was from St. Louis, and so it was natural that you would go back. But then, if you say now in the transition, it was, with Stan Kroenke owning the team that, he had to try to see, because he was a guy that's from Missouri. He tried to see, is this workable potentially to keep it? But the opportunity of coming back to LA and really him leading the comeback, which was always, the problem with LA was that someone had to lead making the stadium. They always try to put it on the city, always try to put it on somebody else to get it done. But when you got the money of a Stan Kroenke, right, it can get done. And so with that leadership, they will come back, and that stadium is just absolutely amazing so far. Got the Chargers up in there now too, and really have just completely changed the game, and brought this different feel to LA. And it took a leader like Stan to be able to get that done, and he did.
We are talking to 12-year NFL linebacker Chris Draft. Last question for us before we let you go, and we really appreciate your time as always. But one of our fans had a question for you. John Suggs asks, out of the teams Chris Draft has been on, which was his memorable team he enjoyed playing for, and why is the Panthers? Why is what did he say? And why?
Oh, because he's from Carolina, so he's saying, "Why is it the Panthers?" Like,
why is it the Panthers? So I'll say that playing in Carolina, as again, I gave you guys a history in saying this transition. So Carolina had the best field in the league for a long time. Now they put turf in, but it was grass. Jerry Richardson was a former football player that recognized, I want a great field for my guys. So it's like a putting green of a field. So again, not trying to slight any of the other teams, but when I was playing with the Niners, there was still a baseball field out there, for part of the season. Not trying to slide it, but at Soldier, the field was thick and again, not saying anything against the city, because at the end of the day, it's what we do on the field. And so I can say that playing on that field in Carolina was just, I felt the difference on my body. And I would say even more so, I felt the difference on Tuesday, the off day, because the recovery from playing on grass all the time was totally different. So I absolutely enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it as a small city that my first year I lived in an apartment right basically across the street from the stadium, where I actually walked home from games. And so there are not too many places where that could happen. The facility was actually at the stadium. So even that, there were so many opportunities of being able to engage in the Charlotte community that was different in other places. Again, not that I didn't do it and absolutely loved. So like I say, I loved being in Chicago, San Fran, Atlanta, St. Louis, Buffalo, Washington, loved it. It's just that they were different experiences.
Yeah, Buffalo was cold. I can tell you that.
I mean, it's what it is. But the people there are amazing. The Bills Mafia. Somebody asked me, like, how do they deal with the fact that it's cold? And it's like, well, they just put some more clothes on, right? I mean, they are ready for it. If you're a Buffalo fan, it's not like you're thinking, oh, we're just going to go in the dome. It's no dome, right? The being a Bills fan is to look outside and see what the weather is and just dress accordingly, and let's go get it.
Yeah, but
they warm up by slamming on the tables.
That's true too. Yeah,
sometimes.
One more question for me: who do you have winning the Super Bowl this year? Who do you have going to the Super Bowl this year?
Man, that's a great question. I would say, I'll have to say, based on what's happened. How my guys respond up in Buffalo will be, big. So I would have said Buffalo, AFC, and right now the way the 49ers are playing, Both of them. I mean, the 49ers are bullies right now. I mean, they are absolutely, living up to that bang, bang, Niner gang, mindset. They are bullying people. So I would say those two.
You want to hear something, Chris? Before the season started, the two teams that I had going to the Super Bowl, San Francisco and the Buffalo Bills. So there you go.
There you go. Look at that. We're on the same page.
Yeah. And that was before the season started. So I just have and I stick with my teams. Everybody says, well, when the playoffs come around, why don't you change it? I stick to what I had in the beginning of the season. If both those teams make it to the playoffs, I'm sticking with it. And I think it's going to be.
I mean, it makes sense when you look at how the teams finished the season. It makes all the sense in the world. I mean, Buffalo was a couple of seconds away from beating the Chiefs and rolling into the AFC Championship and being there. So they playing with a chip, they had a chip on their shoulder from the beginning of the season. And then the same thing with the 49ers. I mean, they lost the third game to the Rams, but they had beat them the two other times. So it was obvious that they are a great team that then upgraded by adding a Christian McCaffrey. So watch out.
Well, we really appreciate everything, all the time that you gave us, the stories. By the way, I feel bad. I thought your wife lived through that, but I'm very, very sorry for your loss. I didn't know the story, but fantastic stories with the foundations and the time that you put into your foundations. It's fantastic. You're a fantastic person. Keep up the good work. We'll get you on very, very soon. We really appreciate you, man.
Awesome. You guys have a good one.
Thanks.
You too.
We were just talking to 12-year NFL vet linebacker Chris Draft. I felt bad, because I didn't know that. I thought his wife lived through it, and I thank him for joining us. Yes. He was a fantastic interview.
Yeah, he was.
He was really, really good. Thank you to Brandon Jacobs. Two fantastic people. They really up. And when he was speaking, I thought his wife survived, and then it kind of threw me off.
Yeah, it was 2011. He was saying that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, when I was like, wow, I've heard stories that people, when they're in the fourth stage, people have survived that. So I apologize, but Chris is a really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Great story, great person, great personality. Thank him. Thank you for joining us. And we want to get him on again. Tell him we would love to get him on again. He is fantastic. He really is. His stories and just who he is as a person. He was just great. It really is. And John Sugg says, don't sleep on the Bengals. Nobody's sleeping on the Bengals. No. And going into the playoffs last year, everybody was sleeping on him. There's no way in hell any team. This is a team that hasn't lost since Thanksgiving. Halloween. I'm sorry.
They lost. They got blown up by the Browns that night, and they haven't lost a game.
They haven't lost a game since. And the offensive line that was one of the worst offensive lines in the first half became one of the better offensive lines in the second half. So they've been great, and Joe Burrow is starting to feel it. Jamar Chase is back, and Higgins is healthy. Boyd is healthy. Mixon's back. So they're at full strength. They have one of the best kickers in the world. I mean, they're going into the playoffs. They're going to go into the playoffs with a lot of confidence. And by the way, shout out to Ben. He's saying that the NFL is considering ruling the Bills and the Bengals game a no contest and using random numbers to determine the seeding.
That's bizarre.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's what I said before. They could just call it a tie as it is, and just play out Week 18 if the players are able to, and play out Week 18.
That's what I would do. I would call it a tie, and then and whoever wins that game in Week 18 is going to get the number one seed anyways.
Yeah.
Because right now, even if the game doesn't play, Kansas City have the best record right now?
Well, yeah, technically they're a half game up on the Bills because the Bills didn't finish the game, and the Bengals didn't finish the game. The Bengals, if they would have beaten the Bills, they would have gotten to 12-4. And if the Chiefs lose last week and they win, they're the number one seed. And then if the Bills were to beat the Bengals and then they would win out, they would beat the Patriots next week, they would have been the number one seed. So yeah, there were a lot of factors in play with that.
Yeah.
So if they were to call it a tie, the seeding would, would be up to it. it depends on how many games are going to be.
Who are the Kansas City Chiefs playing?
They're at the Raiders.
Oh God, they're going to win that game.
Yeah. So again, I guess there's no easy way to do it. Doing a random seeding, maybe that could be something. Because I guess you never know what would have happened. And you definitely have to
I would do a random seeding for the top three
for
teams.
those three teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what Ben's saying.
I would do that.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre. It's bizarre having to do
I
it
would
based
flip
on a computer, but
well,
yeah.
you can't have 3 coins, but I would do a thing where obviously Kansas City has the best record. So you let the Bills and the Bengals flip a coin. Whoever lands on heads or tails will get the number 2 seed. And then whoever wins that get to flip against the Chiefs, and whoever lands heads or tails will have the number 1 seed. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
In the olden days, what they did for college football is they flipped a coin.
Yeah. The pre-BCS era.
Yeah, they flipped a coin. That's what they did. So, how are you going to generate a seeding? I mean,
yeah, again, a lot of this is going to depend on the timing of when and if these other games are actually
especially
played,
with the Chiefs.
made
I mean,
up. Yeah.
Their numbers are ridiculous. I mean, if you look at the Bills and what the Bills have slowly but surely slid in that number 1, number 2 spot all season long. And really since that Jets game, Josh Allen has not looked as elite as he did in the first 5 or 6 games, so that would worry me going into the playoffs. But I still think the Bills getting White back and getting at full strength almost until Damar Hamlin got hurt. I mean, they were at full strength defensively, except they lost Von Miller for the season.
Yeah.
But they were playing at an elite level. And now all of a sudden you see Hamlin go down. If anything, the Bills players are going to play for Hamlin.
Yep.
So to me, if you were to bet on a team that's going to get out of the AFC, I would bet on the Bills because Damar Hamlin was a leader of this team, one of the leaders of this team. And you could see that all the players loved him.
Yeah.
They really did love him. So I respect the fact that, Diggs showing emotion and Josh Allen showing emotion. And I'm not saying that usually you try to stay composed until you go into the locker room but the emotion.
No, you can't in that time.
Yeah. The emotion that these players had for this guy and throughout the league, it's remarkable. And it shows you how close these players are than they were, in the time, in the 80s and the 70s when they hated each other,
right.
Yeah,
so it's going to be a rallying point for the Bills, especially, but even for the Bengals too, and even across the league. Like a lot of these players have connections.
Mainly the Buffalo Bills because that was their
the Bills,
teammates.
Yeah,
because they just lost, a fan favorite, a player that they loved, and you could see that they loved him, and a leader of that team. And believe it or not, I was reading a story that that secondary has said that Damar Hamlin was one of the lead leaders of that secondary. So
look at adversity wise, even before this, look at what he had to go through because Micah Hyde got hurt early in the season. He's out for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Poyer's missed some games on and off, and he's had to take on a huge role in that secondary. And that was before White came
and he was
back,
playing well.
And he played well. So you had to already face that kind of adversity. And now again, hopefully he can recover. And
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was very scary.
He's still in critical condition. I'm reading it on the NFL.com right now. He's in critical condition, but some of the doctors say that they've seen movement of his hands.
Which is good. Yeah.
Which is good. So we'll see what happens. It's sad. I don't want to see a player and as you watch something like that on national TV, see a player pass away from that. That's horrible.
Yeah. So the update yesterday was 50% oxygen. He's been breathing on for the last 24 hours now. So he's improved in that sense too. And like you said, if you saw movement, it's definitely a good sign.
Of fingers.
And again, the condition from what we've heard from many different people have improved. His uncle said it, I think his brother, his agent, there's so many people that have said his condition has improved. So that is a good sign for Damar Hamlin. Absolutely.
All right. Who do we have on the phone?
The Beeve.
Beeve, what's up, man?
What's up, bro? How are you?
We're good, man. I'm happy you called. What would you like to talk about?
No, first of all, throw some prayers to Darian Hamlin's family and everything. Hopefully, recovers and all that other good stuff.
Absolutely.
But now, going forward, they're going to have to play this game.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, well, here's why. I'll tell you why. So, if the Chiefs win, they'll be 14-4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the Bills win, they will be 13-3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, without playing that game, that's not fair to Buffalo because if they beat Cincinnati, they could be 14-4 also, and then they would have the tiebreaker over KC, and they would become the number 1 seed.
It also might not be fair to Buffalo though, trying to make them play through all they're going through right now.
Yeah, they would get the first round bye.
Yes. And that's why the NFL is thinking. And if you heard what our friend Ben said, the NFL is thinking about what is it, generating?
Yeah, they're going to do some kind of random generator, I guess, based on the win percentages.
Yeah.
If let's say they just try to go forward with the playoffs with the 3 teams that are there, the Chiefs,
And if
the Bengals,
if that happens, it would be
I
Buffalo.
think they should
as
just
the
move
number one
everything
seed.
back. They should just move everything back a week then.
That's what I think it could happen too. And the NFLPA has definitely presented that as an option.
All right, so you have a week in between Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the Pro Bowl or skills competition or whatever the hell they're going to do with this crap. Nobody cares about that.
They could still do it and still have the Bengals play the Bills.
They could leave the Super Bowl the way it is, but you just won't have that extra week off. Which to me, you don't really. They don't need that. Like, so they could push everything back a week.
Oh yeah, they could also push it back a week and still have the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, because it's probably, I think, where's it going? Arizona this year. It's going to be hot over there anyways.
It's on February 12th, the Super Bowl. So
they can push it off.
You can actually move everything back a week if you really need to. So.
Well, yeah, and again, it just depends, because we don't know a lot about, until we know it's something definitive about his condition. We don't know how the Bills are going to be able to just function. So right now, it's going to be very hard to be able to reschedule a game against a tough Bengals team as it is. And also, again, how much do they care about the seeding comparatively? They might, again, like we were saying earlier.
I think they care.
They just might take a tie and just go on.
No, they're not. They can't. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Listen, what happened to Hamlin is sad, and like I said, I hope the guy recovers. But at some point, you're going to have to resume football and play.
I agree with you, Beav, and they might have to play the game out. Now, I don't know what the NFL is going to do with this, generating a win percentage. And
to me, that's not fair to the teams. It's not, because who's to say the Bills would have won or lost? Who's to say the Bengals would have won or lost? You don't know.
And that's why I think if the NFL is going to do that, they should have them flip a coin. I think that would be the best way. If right now Kansas City ends the season with the better record, what I would do is I would have the Bills and the Bengals flip a coin. Whoever heads or tails, you let the team that has the biggest winning percentage call it in the air. If it lands on heads, they're the second seed. Then they flip the coin with Kansas City and see who would be the first place.
But here's another issue that just popped out. I don't know if you heard of it. It just popped up on my sister's phone saying that they might move the Bills and Patriots game too now.
Right. We were saying the same thing at the beginning of the show.
They might move all the games, and they might skip this week and move it to next week. And actually maybe play 2 Thursday night football games. That would be smart for the NFL. And then play more Saturday, split the Saturday, some of the Sunday games into Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
So you get the games out.
Well, if they do that, then you're gonna have to push the playoffs back.
They are. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. I mean, this is. And I feel so bad for Damar Hamlin. And
100%.
I feel so bad for his family for what has happened.
You know that this injury is like 1 out of 264 million, I think, or something.
Yeah, it was a freak accident, and
it was a freak thing that only happens once every out of 260 million chances.
And nobody knows if Damar had heart problems from that.
Well, no. Well, what they're also saying is that he got hit at the right time as the heart was retracting or something. If you get hit at the right time in the right spot, it causes your body to go into cardiac arrest.
Well, not only that, they have the armor under their jerseys and their pads and stuff.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't matter. But
you
understand how hard these guys hit. These guys hit hard. And like I said, you get hit at the right spot at the right time at the right moment. Yes, it can happen, but it's a freak accident.
It's a freak accident, and hopefully he gets through it.
Hopefully, and I think he's showing signs of improvement, which is very, very good.
I was reading that somebody said that his fingers were moving.
Well, they flipped him over onto his stomach, so his lungs can breathe a little bit better. So, which is, he's in very good hands over there. So
yes, and they probably has the best doctors in the world.
And they had great doctors on the field, and they reacted right away.
As long as they don't have the Mets doctors, they're in good shape. Okay.
I'll trust the college interns. I'll trust the college interns at University of Cincinnati in that hospital over the Mets doctors.
If the Mets doctors were on the field, it would have been over. I mean,
well, jeez,
that's
horrible to say.
I'm not saying it. I'm being serious. I mean, how many times does the Mets doctors ruin players saying, "Oh, he's okay, put him back in the game," and his arm gets thrown out or his shoulder goes. So I mean, it depends on the doctors. I mean, the Washington football team, they've always had great doctors. One of the best doctors in the world, orthopedics, works for the Washington football team. So some of these football teams have some of the best doctors in the world. But I was not making a joke on the whole Damar Hamlin thing. I was making a joke with the doctors.
Well, I'll tell you,
the Mets
I was really disgusted with Skip Bayless's tweet.
Oh,
that was disgusting.
Egregious. I had to block him because of that.
What did Skip Bayless say? I didn't even hear it. What happened?
I have to go find
Speedy will look. Speedy will look it up.
I'll find it. I did block him.
He got a lot of heat, and Shannon Sharp was really mad at him also on air. He was going after Skip, and Skip was like, "I'm not taking the tweet down, and I stand by what I said." And it was a whole big thing, and Skip got a lot of heat for this.
Well, Stephen A. That's why Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless were so good together, is because both of them are just out of their minds. They go all over the place.
Skip got a lot of heat. He should have never said what he said. He was trying to make it more about the football game than about Hamlin being hurt and all this other stuff.
Well, that's horrible because to me, when you see an injury like that, significant, and watching a person go down and stop breathing for almost 5 minutes, the fact that Damar Hamlin, they got him breathing again, is a remarkable story. Because
100%.
I mean, because when you're not breathing for over 5 minutes, you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. So that could cause so many problems, when it comes to your body, and even if he does come out of this, he might never play football again. He probably won't.
Oh, I don't think he'll play football again. There's no way he plays football again.
So it's sad, but I also think that with all the players and what the players, the love that they showed on the field, it was remarkable. It was a special sight to see. All these players standing with one another. It doesn't matter who you're playing for. And even, the players that were not playing in the game, all the players around the NFL.
So this is what Skip said. He goes, "No doubt NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? With a question mark." Mm-hmm. Then he goes, "This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which is suddenly seems so irrelevant." How do you say something like that when the guy's laying on the freaking field?
Yeah.
I think Skip Bayless didn't mean it the way everybody is making him out to be mean or disrespectful.
At that time, you do not write.
I agree with you. You should never. I honestly, I don't post anything up significant on Twitter. As a matter of fact, I post up all our stuff, and thank you to all my followers, 5,000, almost 5,200 followers. Thank you for following me. But I don't really post up things that are going on in the games or any of that, because I'm afraid that I'm going to say something that's going to hurt or piss somebody off. So
he got so much heat for it, and then he came out with another tweet apologizing.
Yeah, and he should.
Yeah,
and he did.
Even that, like
yeah, but it was too late. It was too late because he got so much heat.
No, as he should, because that was, again, it was really out of line, because there's not a single Bills player that would care about seeding over having their teammates.
I lost all respect for Skip Bayless. I think the guy's an idiot.
Yeah. I listen. I don't hate Skip Bayless. I think some of the things.
I didn't say hate him. I said I lost respect.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is outlandish. And same thing with me. I'll say outlandish stuff, but I won't say it to be crude or rude or trying to hurt somebody when I say it. It comes out wrong sometimes, and some people like Jeff. Some people like Jeff like to attack me from it. But that's fine. That's what sports radio is all about. You want to attack me? I have to take it. I have to learn how to take it and have tough skin. But when somebody says that throughout, you have to be able to back that up. And that if you say something like that and you say it to the wrong people, you have millions of people following you. Somebody is going to dislike what you say.
He got so much. Everybody was back. He got so much back.
And that's why I don't post things like that up on social media. You will not see me go on Twitter and say, "Oh, F this guy," or "This guy is a piece of garbage," or this referee, because I know I'm going to get backlash one way or another. I don't have 1.8 million people follow me on Twitter.
No.
I don't know how many people follow Twitter.
But it's what he said at the time. Yeah, as the guy's laying on the ground and they're doing CPR on the guy, and this is what he says.
Yeah, and by the way,
and there's nobody caring about that in that moment.
No, not one. But then and then Shannon Sharp was ripping him apart the day after. So
John Suggs says outlandish, like the Jets going to have a better record than the Giants next year. Here's and I it's so funny you make a joke like that. the Giants' schedule is going to be a lot harder next year.
Yeah, AFC, NFC West.
It's going to be a lot harder, John. I know you're a Giant fan. And guess what? The Jets' schedule is going to be a lot easier. It's probably the easiest in the last 4 years that the Jets are going to have.
Now we're hearing that they keep Zach Wilson now.
Listen, and I'm going to say this for all the Jet fans out there. Of course, the Jets are going to say that. They don't want.
It was. I read it.
I know. Adam Schefter said it. Adam Schefter said that doesn't mean that they're going to hold on to him. And even if they do, he's not starting next year. He's not. He's not starting next year for the New York Jets.
Probably going to wind up with Derek Carr. That's going to be.
And I think that's what the Jets should do. They need to bring in a veteran quarterback that can win now for them. Have Zach Wilson sit the bench for next year, full next year. Let him learn the scheme. Let him learn the offense behind Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers, whoever you bring in. Let him sit behind these guys. Let him learn the offense for what it is. And then when you're ready to get him back on the field the year after, he'll be 25 years old. You put him on the field and you see what he has for one more year. And if he doesn't work, Robert Saleh will be gone, and so will probably Joe Douglas. So that's just the facts. But the season that the Jets have had, and really some of the players that they drafted over the last couple of years is remarkable. But they fell short.
The Jets should have made the playoffs. I mean, they lost games that they shouldn't have lost and whatever, but they should have been in the playoffs this year.
Yes, and I see that Jeff likes to post up things and be idiotic, and I respect Jeff as a person, but as a what do they call that on social media? A troll. The guy's a complete moron. Okay, he is as dumb. He's as dumb as a wall, okay? Because a wall doesn't have a brain, okay? So the wall has better brains than he does, okay? An ape has a better brain than him, okay? He's just an idiot. And the things that he says and the outlandish things he posts on my social media, I just think he's stupid. But I'm not going to go any further than that, but he's just dumb. And I don't care what he has to say. And by the way, just so you know, I'm not removing your messages, just so you know. I have somebody else removing your messages. So just so you know, my hands are free. It's not me. So there you go. So stop pointing your finger at me, Jeff, like I'm doing it. But, Beav, I see that your Rangers won the other day, and they're playing pretty good.
I was at the game. I was at the game last night. It was a good game, but I'm still not happy with the way their defense is playing because they score a goal, they tie the game, and then 5 seconds later they make a bonehead play, and then they're losing again.
Yeah, one goal was 16 seconds, the other one was 29. So.
They're not they're not a good defensive roster. They're really
not. But they do have players in play. I mean, Miller's playing good. Fox is playing
great
good
in that game. Yeah.
The thing that pisses me off is Lafreniere. The guy has not developed into what everyone thought he was going to be. Kako is developed into the player that everyone thought he was going to be.
You think so? I mean, Kako
right now he's having a good season.
You know,
he's having a good season.
Define good. I mean, what does he have? 6 goals. I mean,
I don't know, but he's playing. But what I'm saying, though, he's playing the.
This guy was estimated.
He's doing other things in the game.
But this guy,
you know what I mean?
But this guy was estimated to be a 35 goal scorer.
And he's still what, 23 years old, 24 years old?
Yeah, but he's been in the league for 4 years, and he's been on the Rangers for 4 years.
I know, but then the Rangers also have been, this head coach, that head coach. I mean, it's it's different. He's got to get used to everything.
He has 9 goals and 9 assists. He's 18 points.
All right, so
I think he's also spacing the ice a lot better and playing better.
But
defense,
he's playing well. He's playing good with the ball on the lines. He's playing better. Lafreniere looks lost.
I think he looks lost, and everybody tried to compare his skills to certain players, a.k.a. Sidney Crosby when he was drafted, which I thought was crazy.
I'll never forget what you said. They should have never drafted him. They should have drafted a defensive player over him.
Yes, and I think when you look at the Rangers in the position that they're in, the Rangers is still in a very good position. They have some good offensive talent. They have a pretty good farm system. Their farm system is still really, really good.
Yeah,
so,
they got some good players down there. So
defensively, I don't know. I mean, they brought all the good young defensemen up. Schneider, who looks like he's a good player.
Schneider's played great this year.
Yeah, he looks like a good player.
Schneider has played really good. Fox is playing unbelievable.
Yes, and Miller, who he looks great in some games and looks bad in other games.
He does, but I'm not worried about Miller. The guy I'm worried about is Lafreniere because the guy looks lost on the ice. Lost.
Yeah, they had to healthy scratch him against the Lightning last week, and then they were considering doing it again before the Hurricanes game too. But they kept him in, and hopefully they can get it.
I mean, I don't. There's
back
been rumors by all these people saying the Lafreniere's going to be traded, and they're going to get Patrick Kane. I don't want Patrick Kane. They don't need Patrick Kane.
Yeah, well,
They
yeah,
don't-
the Rangers have been in Patrick Kane trade rumors for 6 months now. So
Yeah, and a lot
they're
of
not
other
going to go
teams.
away.
The Islanders are interested in Patrick Kane.
But I don't want him. I want.
The Hurricanes are interested in Patrick Kane.
I would trade Lafreniere for a defenseman.
Would
else?
Would
Who
you
else
trade?
is-
Would you trade him for a center? Like the Islanders were interested in Horvat. Would you
I don't.
trade
I
him for
don't
that
think they.
kind of thing?
I don't think they need a center. You have Trocheck there, so you don't need.
I'd still hold back on Horvat because even though he's one of the better players in the NHL and he's a good team leader and he's young, you're going to have to give up a significant boatload of players to get him. And
To get who?
To Horvat.
Horvat, because he's a young
One of the top
27-year-old
five
center that almost has 30 goals.
Yeah, one of the
So-
top five players in the league.
They don't need a center. They need a defenseman. That's what they need.
Well, I think they do still need a center, but you're right. They might go after a third line, fourth line type center that is like a good face-off guy. Like the Hurricanes have one with Paul Stastny. Like that'd be the perfect type of guy for the Rangers if they could get that type of
yeah, but
veteran
you know,
center.
their face-off hasn't been bad this year. They've been doing
It's
a lot
been
better
a
with
little better,
Trocheck
but it's
there.
still a big weakness of the team.
It's a big weakness, and when it comes
is,
down,
but it's
when it
the
comes
big
down,
problem with the Rangers is the defense. That's the biggest.
it's
problem.
always been the big problem of their team.
And
is their
I'm so
defense.
sick of everyone blaming Shesterkin because he's always getting hung out to dry because the Rangers turn over the puck in there and it just creates bad situations.
I don't think anybody believes it's all because of Shesterkin.
Oh, there's Ranger fans. They're idiots out there who think Shesterkin should be
Because
gone.
it's lazy. They just want to blame the goalie like people blame quarterbacks all the time.
It's like sitting
Yeah,
here
well-
and the Islander fans saying it's Sorokin's fault when the defense completely falls apart in front of him. I mean, the guy stands on his head in certain games. And,
Yeah, so does Shesterkin.
And-
I mean, he makes great saves.
Yeah, I don't think it's Shesterkin. I think it has a lot to do with their defense. And they have a lot of offensive defensemen. If you remember the times of Brian Leach, they don't have guys like Jeff Bukaboom and those type of guys anymore.
No, Fox is a very good defenseman.
Well, yeah,
He's
right.
more of an offensive defenseman. He does
but
play
but
defense. He
he
does.
He plays very good defense.
But that's
Yes,
the
he
problem.
does.
They have a lot of offensive defensemen. They don't have defensive defensemen.
Fox is a two-way player. He's
course.
very good.
I'm
He's
not
very good
saying
defensively
Fox isn't
and
one of the best
offensively.
players in the league. He is, but I am not even talking about Fox. I'm talking about their all-around defense.
No, but I got it. But you're saying Fox is more of an offensive player, not a defensive player.
He
That's
is.
what you're saying.
He's definitely more. If you
for
would
the
ask
higher
him,
rankings of
as
offensive
far as
defenseman versus defense,
as far as what I see when it comes to plus minus, what you look at defenseman, Adam Fox is more of an offensive defenseman. That doesn't mean he's not a good defenseman. He's a good defenseman. He's just more known for his offensive skills than his defensive skills. That's it. It's like same thing with Noah Dobson. He's more of a offensive defenseman. He's good defensively, but he's better offensively.
I think
and
what
then you have Pelech, who is a
I know what Eric's
defensive
trying to say.
defenseman.
I get it. But
Pulak, a defenseman.
I still think Fox is a great defenseman, defensive-wise also. So
I'm talking. If you right now put some of the best defensive defensemen on the ice against Adam Fox, where do you rate him in the top 10 of defenseman? Like all defense,
right? Just exclusively defense.
Defense.
Right.
Where would you put Fox?
He would probably be in the 10 to 15 range.
That's where he would be in 10, 15.
I think he's definitely in top 10.
I don't think so.
I do.
There's a lot of good defensive defensemen
because
there's
there's
a
defensemen
lot.
that aren't they don't do much offensively at all. They're really just
Adam
stay at home.
Pelech.
Yeah.
Adam Pelech is a defenseman. That's what he is.
Yeah, Pelech's a very good defenseman.
He is a defenseman. That's what he is. Big body that, gets in front of the puck. He's big, he's long, and he's going to hit you, and he's going to make sure that you stay outside of the hashes. That's what he does.
I'll bring up Carolina because they just played the Rangers.
Carolina has
Carolina.
two really
Jacob
good defensemen,
Slavin
yes.
is the equivalent of that. Like as an offensive defenseman, he's probably not even top 50.
No, he's not even close to Fox.
But as a defensive defenseman, he's top 10.
Yes. And that's what you have to look at. I don't know if Fox is a top 10. I would say Speedy's right. Between 11 and 15, I would put Adam Fox as but offensive defenseman, he's probably number 1 or number 2.
He's easily top 3.
Didn't he win something? What did he win last year?
He won
the Norris Trophy in the short season.
Yeah, he won the Norris Trophy in the short season. But they give the Norris Trophy to the offensive defenseman. That's what they give it to. They give it to the guy that gets like 50, 60 points, even though he might not be the best defenseman. So that's what they give that award to. And Adam Fox had the most points out of any defenseman last year. Right. That's why he won it.
I know, but go watch him on the ice a little bit more.
I
You'll
watch
change your
out of
mind.
dude. I know him. I know his family. I know he's from Wantua. I watched the kid grow up from high school. The kid's a fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I think it was Colorado that drafted him, right? Was it Colorado?
It was the Flames.
The Flames that drafted him.
And then they traded him to the Hurricanes.
And he was
Hurricanes traded him to the Rangers.
And I think he was a second-round draft pick, right?
Yeah, something like that. Late second, early third.
Yeah, he was a late and John Davidson. That was the move that John Davidson made. He made the move.
I wish John Davidson was still with us. He got a raw deal, man.
He did, but you want to know something? He made some mistakes when he was the GM of the organization, or president. He wasn't the GM; he's the president of the organization. John Davidson should be with the Rangers, but he's back with the Blue Jackets, and they're playing well too. They're having a pretty decent season too. They're obviously not in a playoff spot yet, but I 24 points, but. Actually, they were playing well. They're not playing well.
They were playing well last year. They're really underperforming this year.
No, they were playing well. Early in the season, they were playing well. I haven't been really looking at the schedule.
It's like you're the 10
you know what?
sample.
The only time I watch hockey right now is when the Islanders are playing. Honestly, I've watched the Rangers maybe 3 or 4 times this year.
I watched every single game.
Yeah, I watched the Devils a couple of times this year. I watched Carolina once.
The Devils have been falling off. That
was bound to happen.
And I knew that was.
I didn't even know Columbus felt like that. Columbus was right. At one point, right under Washington, they were right there.
Well, yeah, because Washington was really bad at the beginning of the season.
No, but they were. I think they.
Yeah,
I think
they're right there, 6 and 7.
I think they lost a lot of games in a row.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. In streak, they're 2-8 in the last 10 games.
That'll do it.
That will do it. But at one point, Columbus was playing well. But I haven't really been in touch of what I usually don't really look and start studying hockey until the second half of the season. And that's when I really, it's so close right now. The Metropolitan Division, it's like what
the Rangers are in third place, at 1 point behind the Devils right now.
Right.
I mean, if you look at it right now,
only 4 points ahead of the 6th place Penguins.
I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes, which everybody believed they were going to pull away, and they're going to pull away. It's really going to be between the Devils, the Rangers, the Washington Capitals, and the Islanders. I think
the Devils are going to fall.
I mean, these teams they're neck and neck. They're 2 games out from each other. I mean, the Islanders.
I still think the Rangers are going to make some kind of a trade. I know they are.
They all are. They all are. If you're a playoff contender, the Devils will make a trade.
They're going to go after
the Devils should be able to make a trade.
They have a great farm system. They have a lot of players in their farm system that teams will want. So, and they've got picks.
Yeah. The only one that in that of those 5 teams, it might be harder for them to make a trade is Washington, just because they don't have a lot as much.
I did hear that Quinn Hughes, if Vancouver is willing to trade, he wants to go and play for the Devils.
Of course. Who's that?
Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes' brother, one of the better defensemen, one of the more underrated defensemen in the NHL. I mean, people don't realize how good he is. He got a lot of money a couple of years ago.
I just really hope the Rangers don't pull that trigger on Patrick Kane, because I don't want him.
I don't think they're getting Patrick Kane, and the Penguins.
I don't think they're getting him either. But I just hope they don't pull that trigger. I really don't.
And by the way, John, I do believe the Penguins will be up there with these 4 teams. It's going to be neck and neck throughout the rest of the season. And there's so many games left. I think they're where are we at with the games?
Rangers have played 39 games, so they have 43
left.
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
They're 7-2 and 1 in their last 11 games.
It's ridiculous how many games they have left. I mean, the Islanders have 30. They played 39 games. They have 43 games left. I mean, all these teams, they have so much hockey left. It's going to go back and forth and back and forth. And one of these teams are going to go on a 10-game winning streak or an 8-game winning streak.
Right.
Carolina's doing that right now. They're just playing
right, and the Devils
flawless.
did that at the beginning of the season.
They're playing flawless hockey. They're 9-1 in the last 10 games. I mean, Carolina's been just unbeatable. And by the way, the Rangers beat them for the first time in like 8 or 9 games.
They were 9-0. They were 9-0 until last night.
Yeah, they've been playing great hockey. So
and then the Rangers played a very good game against Carolina last night.
Yeah, and great goaltending, and that's what you need.
By both goalies, but the better team won last night. So,
Beav, thank you for calling, buddy.
You got it, man. All right, good night, guys. Take care.
Beav will go over the NFL and where everything is going to fall in the next couple of minutes. So that was the Beav.
Mm-hmm.
At least he has a little bit respect for me. I mean, there are other people, aka Jeff from Tampa, who just has no respect. And listen, I don't really care if Jeff likes me, loves me, or hates me. Okay, I really don't. As a matter of fact, I would rather Jeff hate me. You know why? Because I'd rather have an enemy. But the things that he posts up on social media and stuff like that, that's uncalled for. That's not showing any. You want to call me out on something? You want to call me out because I said that hockey players could go 70 miles per hour? Okay, call me out on it. All right, who cares? Who cares?
John also has a couple other questions too. Hurricanes or Boston, you think more dangerous?
Boston.
I would still say Boston right now too. Hurricanes and Devils, probably the closest similar teams this year. And most surprising team, he thinks it's Buffalo. I would probably say the Devils for that.
I think the Devils are the most surprising team, but I think they're going to fall off. They're already falling off. You have 4 teams trailing behind them by 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point. I mean, the Rangers and Washington are trailing behind them by 1 point. The Islanders are trailing by them by 3. I mean, they have to play the Islanders, I think 2 more or 3 more times. I think the Devils are going to fall off. I think it's really between Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and the Rangers and Washington. That's where it's going to lie. And I was very surprised because I thought Philadelphia was going to be the surprise team in the Metropolitan Division. And they still could. I mean, they have 35 points. It's not like they're far behind.
You want to talk about a team epitome of winning streaks. They had a 12-game win streak and then a 10-game lose streak.
And then they just won 3 in a row.
Off. Yeah, and they just won 3 in a row, so it's weird.
Yeah, so maybe they start picking up the game, and I think their coach knows a little bit about that. So
yeah.
I think that could happen, but hockey it's still early, and that's why we don't really speak hockey that much until the second half of the season. But we're not like WFAN or ESPN or any CBS. We talk hockey, so it's not like we don't know what we're speaking about. I know there's a lot of people that have their own opinions towards way some of these teams and how some of these teams are going to land or end up at the end of the season. But I really, the Metropolitan Division is probably the hardest division in hockey.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, because you already know what's going to happen in the Atlantic Division. It's already it's really Boston, Toronto, and Tampa. They're going to be fighting for position, and the other teams are going to. Honestly, none of those teams are going to make the playoffs. Buffalo's not going to make the playoffs. Detroit's not going to make the playoffs. Ottawa's not going to make the playoffs. Florida is having a terrible season. They're not going to make the playoffs, and Montreal is not making the playoffs. So.
Yeah, funny thing about trading 2 of your top players and then making a coaching change for a guy that just won a President's Trophy. Good job, Panthers.
Yes, and then in the Western Conference, we all know what the better division, the best division, the second best division in all hockey is the Central Division.
Oh, of course.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And Colorado, everybody thought was just by far the best team in the NHL. They're not having a good season. They're not, but that doesn't mean that they can't get into the playoffs and just completely run the table. We know how good and how talented this team is. It's really the goaltending. And Kepler's not on the team. What was it, right? Kepler, I'm sorry. Kepler is not playing for them this year. They have Georgiev, who's having a good season.
He's played well, yeah.
He's having a good season. He really is. He's having a better season than Shesterkin is this year. But that doesn't mean anything. You still have 43 games left. Anything could happen. But I was very surprised when I look at where the standings are. I couldn't believe Colorado's in 4th place. And again, I don't really watch hockey until the second half of the season. Right after the All-Star break is when I'm locked in with the NHL. And I will be watching every game on TV and the NHL Network and everything like that. I have the NHL package. I'll watch every single NHL game. Right now, it's just really positioning, and these teams are now positioning on where they are. And by the All-Star break, you're going to see teams start to figure out where they're going with the team, how they're going to make the trade, and how they're going to make their team better.
Right. And John, you were talking about surprise teams. Dallas being number 1 in the Central, definitely one of them.
But Dallas has some good young players.
They're a good team. I don't think anyone expected this good, especially since they just fired their coach. And then in the Pacific, you got Seattle too, 3rd place right now.
Dallas reminds me, and by the way, watch out for the St. Louis Blues because we all know what they do in the second half of the season. Okay, they started off the season really bad. I remember when they played the Island. Island just destroyed them. I think the Islanders scored 5 goals against them, and I think they won in St. Louis too. The Islanders. St. Louis is a good team. This is very well coached. Craig Berube is a very well-known, respectable hockey coach in the NHL. He won a Stanley Cup. This team has won a Stanley Cup. I was there when they won the Stanley Cup, so I was excited because they knocked off the Boston Bruins. But this team's dangerous. And watch out for Colorado, St. Louis. Nashville is another team that I think is a lot better than their record shows. Those are the teams. Chicago stinks. As you know,
Right. The last two teams are rebuilding. So,
and Chicago's getting, as of right now, Chicago looks like they're getting the number 1 pick. I mean, if you look at where everybody is,
20 points. Oof.
And that's why they're thinking about trading Patrick Kane because because this kid who, if somehow, and it's a lottery, you don't know if they're going to get the number 1 pick. Whoever gets the number 1 pick this year is going to get a game-breaking player. Some people say he's as talented or even more talented than Connor McDavid was when he was coming out of, junior hockey. Right. So this guy is special.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. John also says, I also thought the Ducks would be doing better than they are. I did too at the start of the year.
I didn't. I knew the Ducks were they were another rebuilding team. And I don't know. When you look at their roster, does anything stand out?
It's all young at once. It was like the Kings last year. So we were with the week.
Nothing really sticks out to you.
Being that week. Troy Terry and Trevor Zegras are the two cornerstones.
You know what a team I thought was going to have a better season? San Jose. I thought going into the season, they have Carlson, who's, by the way, leads the NHL in all defenseman points. Yeah. And he's probably a trade chip.
And so is Timo Meier.
Timo Meier, who I like very much for the Islanders.
You should.
Yes. He's a guy.
26-year-olds, he could score and he could hit.
Yeah, that's the guy I want the Islanders to go after is Timo Meier, a guy that can do everything, and he fits the Islander culture. He can hit. You could put him he's fast for a guy his size. And by the way, he's mean. And that's what you need in the playoffs. Mean players that can punish you in front of the net. And that's what he does. So that's the guy. If there's somebody I'd go after at the trade deadline, it would be Timo Meier. I'm sure other teams will be interested in him. But San Jose, I thought they were going to be better than they were this year. And Edmonton's going to sneak in. Somehow they're going to sneak in because they have two of the best players in the world on that team. And I don't even think you can argue that they're not two of the top 4 players in the world. Right. So, and I think Edmonton's going to have to figure out what they're going to do with those 2 players because they're not winning with them.
Yeah.
So if they're not winning with them, you got to trade one of them. You're going to keep Connor McDavid because he's the best player in the world. So you could get a boatload of picks, a boatload of players for Draisaitl. I mean, he's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, there'll be teams lining up, giving you a bunch of great young players and help you reconstruct your team. Yep. So it's something Edmonton needs to look at. Their goaltending is horrible. They don't have a good goaltender. Yeah. I don't want to hear it. They need to find one. They need to draft one. That's what they really need to do.
Yeah, they got to hope that their Jack Campbell turns into first half of last year Jack Campbell. Otherwise, they're doomed.
Man, Jack Campbell stinks.
Yeah, he's looking like second half Jack Campbell, the way he's played this year.
It's what's so interesting when you look at the whole big picture. I love the fact when you look at the game and the transition of the game that the goaltenders are like no smaller than 6'2". I mean, I've spoken to John Van Beesbrook. I tell this story all the time because Johnny always told me. I've spoken to him like 3 times. He always told me that goaltending is really about size and agility now. It's not about your ability to cut down angles. It's not your ability of moving side to side. It's really size and agility. You position your body with your big body in front of the puck. It don't matter how fast you are with your skates and how good you are side to side because you take up most of the net. Right. So it's different because the biggest goaltenders in a time that I watched hockey was I don't know who would play for the Whalers, the Hartford Whalers. I forget his name. Oh my God, find that out. Find the name, Speedy. Goaltender played for the Hartford Whalers, and then the Whalers obviously moved from Hartford. Sean Burks.
Sean Burke. Yep.
Yeah, Sean Burke. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and he was a fantastic goaltender. But he was the biggest goaltender in the NHL. I mean, now you have like 7 or 8 guys that are 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, like Ben Bishop, I think, was 6'6". So like that whole craze just started after that. Bobrovsky's huge. Vasilevsky's huge. Teammate with Bishop in Tampa. Then he obviously took him over. And now he's the best goalie in the league. And Shesterkin, like all these guys are just huge guys. And there's not many of the Henrik Lundqvist types that are a little smaller but have to be quicker and make it work. There's not many of them in the league anymore.
Yeah. The game is transitioning, and even Van Beesbrook said, like some of these young teams are starting to look at. Everybody talks about the size, the big players. They're looking for the small, speedy players now because the game has become fast.
Yeah,
and you need speed. Speed sells. Speed wins. And a lot of these teams don't have enough of it. It's a lot of these teams built around size, and size doesn't do it anymore. In the 90s, it did. I mean, if you look at the St. Louis Blues with Brett Hull and Al McGinnis and those guys, size meant a lot. Now, you look at the game, the better teams in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes. Who's the biggest player on that team? I mean, seriously, 6'3".
Was Ian Cole last year, but he's not there anymore.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, they don't have big players; they have speed,
right?
And that's what wins now. Colorado, they're speed. They're a fast team, probably the fastest team in the NHL. So you win. Calgary over the years, fast team, fast organization. I don't know what they are this year. I mean, they're playing decent hockey.
Right. They're always one of those teams that do well one year and fall off the next.
Yeah.
And they still can make it because it's a weak division.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the same level. But yeah, they're mostly a speed-oriented offense too. Their defense, they got rid of Giordano and Brody, who were faster defensemen.
Mhm.
Now their younger defensemen are kind of a little more physical, which is good for their standards of Daryl Sutter. But still, yeah, it's more of an offensive team with definitely some speed.
Fantastic. The game is fun to watch. I think 90s hockey was better. And that's coming from me who played hockey. The players were better in the 90s. That's just my opinion. I just thought they were. That's just my thought. Jim Harbaugh says he is likely to take an NFL job this offseason if he's offered the right money and the right offer.
Yep.
I absolutely believe somebody's going to give him a lot of money. He is going to be the highest paid coach in NFL history this offseason. And I don't know if Jim Harbaugh is an all-time great coach because he only coached in the NFL for what, 4 years? 4 years. I mean, not that long.
And it was a very ugly fallout.
Yes, but he did take a team to a Super Bowl, and he was one play away from winning a Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, 3 straight NFC championships.
Yes,
they went to.
I mean, he has proven that he could win in the NFL, and he took over a team that was not a good 49ers team. When he took over that team, they were a last place team or a second to last place.
Yeah, they
team.
were a good defense up front, but their
And
secondary.
they didn't know how to coach
sucked
that
them.
defense either.
Yeah, and they had Frank Gore, they had Vernon Davis. They had a couple good pieces, but they never had a good team offense collectively.
And then he went over there, and obviously he changed the outcome and the vision of where that team was going. And the fallout did happen so fast. And Jimmy is still, I believe, a very good coach, and I think he could coach in the NFL. I think he's a better coach in the NFL. His style works in the NFL better than it works in college. That's just my opinion. Whoever gets him. Now, if I was him, I'm hearing Carolina and I'm hearing the Broncos. I'm taking the Broncos job. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to take the Broncos job. The Broncos, as much as everybody thinks Russell Wilson is washed up and he can't play anymore, this is the same guy for 5 years before this year was an elite quarterback, was one of the top 5, top 6 quarterbacks in all of the NFL. Now, all of a sudden, after one season, he fell off. There's a reason why he fell off. Nathaniel Hackett is one of them. All right. Number 2, they didn't protect him. And number 3, his wide receivers, as good as we thought they were going to be,
hurt most of the year.
Really were hurt most of the year. And when they did play, they really weren't as good as we thought they were. And they lost their star running back early in the season, in Williams.
Yeah, and they had to be stuck with Melvin Gordon, who probably fumbled 7 times this year.
Yeah. So if I was Jim Harbaugh, the Broncos defense is still pretty good. I do not know why they traded their best defensive player. They did get a first-round draft pick. They lost a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
So they gained a first-round draft pick. So maybe that would be appeasing to a guy like Jim Harbaugh, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a late first-round pick. I don't know how much.
What makes Jim Harbaugh so special is his attitude. He brings a swagger to him. And it's not, everybody says, well, what did he do for Michigan? Michigan, what's going on? The Ravens fired and hired Harbaugh at the same. I love him.
That would be funny.
Snug is an idiot, but honestly, when you look at Jim Harbaugh, I don't know why he took that Wolverines job. Now, I know he wanted to win a national championship with the team that he played for, and he grew up, rooting for. His father coached that team when he was a kid. His brother and him, lived, in that same area their whole lives. I understand that. He should have stayed in the NFL. This is a guy that was not only one of the better coaches in the NFL, he was one of the elite coaches in the NFL. For a guy that 4 years went to 3 NFC title games and a Super Bowl and almost won a Super Bowl, that one play away, and had Colin Kaepernick as his quarterback. It was crazy when everything fell apart. And a lot of things fell apart. I think a lot of these players, Patrick Willis, Bolin, these guys, they retired young.
Right.
And it affected, affected the team and where the roster was. So I think after that happened and he was behind Colin Kaepernick, I really believe Jim Harbaugh was behind Colin Kaepernick. I think that's what this, possibly pushed him out.
Yeah. I also wonder two things with Jim Harbaugh from the last time he coached to now. And the biggest thing is, does he have a good team culture thing with younger guys in comparison to maybe veteran players?
I think it does.
The Niners were mostly a veteran team when it got to that point in the year. And when he first came in, they were still on the younger side. But again, they still had a lot of older guys, like we said, Vernon Davis, Frank Gore, guys like that were those types of leaders. But how has this experience taught him it was now a younger NFL?
Here's another thing that it would benefit an organization to bring him in. He knows college football. He's been there. He's been playing. He's been coaching with the Wolverines. He's been playing he's been in an elite position as a coach. You're playing college football, so he knows the college divisions and the players that are coming out of the draft. He can really help you decide on how to rebuild your team within the next year or two, because he knows these players. He's played against these players, or he's coached these players. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And yes, the Broncos right now, they really put themselves in a bad position bringing in Russell Wilson, but not necessarily, because Russell Wilson could come back next year and put up great numbers. I don't believe Russell Wilson is as bad as he showed on the field this year. As a matter of fact, I think he's still a guy that can give you 4,000 yards, could still throw 30 touchdowns, and do everything what he's good at, moving inside and out of the pocket and making plays on the run. I think he can still do it. What bothers me about Russell Wilson this year is how he handled his team when things were starting to fall apart. And this is the same thing that happened to Wilson, Zach Wilson with the Jets. Now, Russell didn't say anything at the press conferences. He didn't throw his team under the bus. He took responsibility, but it was his reaction on the bench that showed me not only that he was struggling, understanding what was going on inside and out of the field, but also, where these players, how these players were thinking about him offensively and how he was running the offense as the quarterback, the star quarterback that they decided to trade for in the offseason and pay him $250 million or whatever he got. So I think that was the problem. And even the defensive players, they were pissed off at him. They were yelling him on the sidelines, and he didn't really have much of a reaction to it. I mean, if he was a leader, if I was a leader, I would have went back at the defensive player that was yelling at me. I don't remember who it was.
Pennell.
Mike, I would be yelling back at him. I would be like, "Who the hell are you?" I'm a guy that won a Super Bowl. Wasn't he Super Bowl MVP? No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't a Super Bowl MVP.
Malcolm Smith, Super Bowl MVP.
That's right. It was Malcolm Smith who played for Philadelphia for a little while.
Yes, he did.
But to me, this is a guy that took a team to a Super Bowl, not once but twice. And somebody like Pennell telling and screaming at me, "Who the hell are you?" I think if I was an offensive player on my team and I saw my quarterback went to bat from even how bad my team was, but my offense was playing, I would be backing up. I would be. Where was the offensive line when that was going on? You know what I mean? So I think that's something that you have to look at. And I think bringing in a guy like Jim Harbaugh would clean it all up, because Jimmy is not going to sit there and let anybody act like that on the sidelines. He'd be the one yelling and screaming on the sidelines.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. But the other two things that are interesting with Jim Harbaugh from what he was coaching then and what he is coaching now. When
Yes.
you look at Michigan, like he was really a program builder. Like they didn't really rely on the transfer portal like a massive amount compared to these other teams. And even when they first got to Michigan, like he was recruiting a lot on his own. He had to really develop, especially on defense, a lot of those defensive players. And you wonder if that kind of thing could be duplicated in the NFL. Not obviously the same way, because you can't recruit, you can't do transfer portal, but you can make trades and do draft picks too. And where would it end up happening? So if you're going to a team like the Panthers, that would be a guy that you would want to have a program builder for, a very young team as it is right now that needs that kind of thing. Now they tried it with Matt Rule, it didn't work, so because his ego got too much in the way. But you wonder if Jim Harbaugh, knowing that maybe he thinks his ego got too much in the way with the 49ers, the way it fell out, maybe might have learned from something like that, and that could be something that could change. The other thing too is the way his coaching system is and the offensive schemes that he has too. Can he adjust maybe halfway from his kind of more running identity at Michigan, the way he's done it with more power football, to the spread offense of the NFL? Can he maybe have it somewhere in between where he could be an innovator in that sense too? And I know a team like the Panthers would definitely be able to look at that, and even the Broncos too. When you look at Javonte Williams and even having Latavius Murray now and Russell Wilson, like having that running style, power running style still work to an extent, but also have those wide receivers there too. Jerry Jeudy, if they don't trade him, Tim Patrick, they'll get back next year too if he goes over there. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of learns from, I guess, that 2014 fallout with the 49ers, uses what he takes at Michigan and makes it work somewhere else. The Panthers would be the team for the team building thing, and the Broncos would be one for, I guess, more win now type success because they traded for Russell Wilson.
Absolutely. And that's why I think Jim Harbaugh would be a better fit. Carolina is a rebuilding team. They don't even have a quarterback. Now, they're going to have a high draft pick this year, and I think a top 10 pick.
It's right now, I think 7.
So they might be able to get the kid from who's the guy with the big arm that everybody keeps talking about? Lavis. Maybe Lavis falls to them, and maybe Jim Harbaugh wants to coach Lavis. But Lavis, some people say, is a little raw, and it's going to take at least a few years to get him up to par to be a star quarterback in this league, but they think he has a tremendous amount of potential. So we'll see. I think he's the best quarterback in this class, but what do I know? I mean, I've watched CJ Stroud this year. I also watched Bryce Young for the last couple of years play. He's a good player. I'm interested to see, being that he's an Alabama quarterback, how he will fare in the NFL. Most of them don't fare very well.
Yep.
So I think he's the best out of all of them. I really do. I think Bryce Young has the most overall talent out of all the ones we've seen come out of the draft after the last over the last couple of years. But we'll see.
Yeah. And again, both Young and Levis have very similar seasons too, where they both kind of had injury issues towards the middle of the season that hurt them too. So I don't know if they got their full potential shown off of that, because again, the teams are also trying to win themselves too. Jahmyr Gibbs emerged as a running back for Alabama because of that. And same kind of thing with Kentucky, where they had a stretch where their running game and their defense were carrying them. And then once Levis came back, he just wasn't the same right away. And the Kentucky as a team kind of fell off too. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, if Harbaugh does go to the Panthers, he'll definitely have that choice. If he wants to build that program up, who is his quarterback?
Georgia and TCU advanced to the national championship game. I'm going to, I know after TCU beat the Wolverines, I got attacked by Jeff all over text message and throughout social media. I didn't think TCU had a chance. I didn't. I really didn't. I thought the Wolverines are the better team, the better coached team. I thought they were better all-around defensive team. It was an all-out brawl. I mean, offensively, how many points were scored in that game? Over 90?
It was 96, 51-45.
I mean, for a Michigan team that was one of the best in the country this year, to give up over 50 points to TCU, shame on them. They didn't deserve to win. Yeah. And even if they won, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh would have stand on the podium and actually bragged about winning that game.
Yeah, especially when all the fundamental mistakes they made in the first half too, between the pick six, the special teams botch, that awful play call on fourth down. Like they had a lot of things that were just really self-inflicted on themselves. It's a bad missed tackles.
I watched bits and pieces of that game, and I didn't get a chance to watch the game because I was working.
Yeah,
but I watched bits and pieces of the game. And it just, TCU outplayed the Wolverines throughout the whole game, from first to fourth. There was no chance in hell the Wolverines were going to win a game. Every time they started coming back in the game, TCU started putting it on them and putting on them. And they were running the ball and throwing the ball. And it was just fantastic. And this is This is going to be fun to watch, Georgia and TCU, because nobody, I mean, TCU is a Cinderella team.
Yes.
Nobody would have thought TCU is going to a national championship game, especially where they're positioned, the division that they're in. The fact that they made it after losing a big game at the end of the season, a lot of people thought they were going to fall out. Alabama was going to be pushed in, or USC was still going to make it. But no, TCU deserved it. And now they have a chance to go to a national championship game against Georgia, where they're heavily favored. It would be an amazing story if TCU could come out and win this game on national television against a Georgia Bulldog team that's just completely dominant all season long. This is arguably one of the better defensive teams we've seen in the last couple of years. Right. You can argue it was a little bit better than the team last year, and that's saying a lot when there was 15 players that were drafted in the top 3 rounds.
Yeah, most of the front 7, even some of the backups got drafted.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, for TCU is they're coming off a game where they beat Michigan at their own strength, too. Yep. So they learned how to stop the run. So if they could do that with Kenny McIntosh in Georgia, that could give them a shot to try to make it a shootout game. Yep. Because I think even though Georgia won the shootout game with Ohio State, they didn't look as comfortable. Like TCU is used to be playing in the shootout. Sonny Dykes, an offensive coach. They have all those wide receiver talents that makes it work there. Now, again, the Georgia secondary is still going to be tough, and that pass rush especially is still going to be tough. So they can't be as bad on the offensive line as they were in the fourth quarter of that game against Michigan. But still, that's going to be the advantage they have if they could find a way to stop the run. Because you're right, they're not playing with any pressure because they were 8th place. They were ranked 8th place out of the 10 Big 10 teams, Big 12 teams at the start of the year in the preseason polls. They have all the kind of adversity. I mean, I knew they'd be better than that, but nobody
every year they're good.
Yeah,
nobody
expected them to be this good right away, though. When you would consider teams like Baylor, Oklahoma State, they were supposed to be better at the start of the year, and then all of a sudden you see them in Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. They lose that game, but they overcome adversity, and they didn't make those fundamental mistakes like Michigan did, and that's what they're going to have to do to beat Georgia because it seems like they are very comfortable in a shootout as it is.
And let me ask you a question. Why hasn't Sonny Dykes gotten an offer yet? I mean, this guy, year in and year out, this team is always practically in the top 10.
Well, yeah, they were long. He was long overdue for a Power 5 job. Finally got it after he brought that spread offense from SMU.
Yeah,
carried it over and made it work in the Big 12 too. Which again, sometimes those transitions don't happen overnight too.
I think he deserves a top end job. Why wasn't he offered Wisconsin?
Right.
Why wasn't he offered one of these big jobs that became available? And TCU, look at the division they're in. You know, I mean, there's nothing that really stands out to me on, and that's why a lot of people were surprised that TCU was ranked as high as they were, because look at it, and they beat 3 really good teams this year.
Yeah,
that's it. 3 really good teams. The rest of their schedule wasn't, but those 3 games that they won were great wins. They weren't just. I think 2 out of the 3 they dominated the game.
Yeah, Oklahoma they dominated the game, and Baylor and Oklahoma State both impact games. The Baylor was the Big 12 champions last year and was able to dominate most of that game. The other thing you wonder too, in terms of Sonny Dykes too, with all those teams transferring out of the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, and them getting a bunch of new teams in the Big 12, do they feel like they could dominate the Big 12 too with that kind of thing? And maybe he thinks, all right, maybe then trying to take a Big 10 program like Wisconsin, where it might be harder to win, maybe I could build my legacy that way.
It's money.
And here's the other thing too, because he's a spread offense guy, does he think about potentially getting an NFL job down the road too?
That could happen.
I think his scheme is very good.
Other teams, NFL teams, will definitely look at Sonny Dykes if he wants a job. Now, remember when TCU had no chance? Yeah, good call. Thank you, Jeff. If you actually listened to what I had to say, you wouldn't be saying that. But that just shows you how much you're listening, because your ears are waxed in. So whatever. I know, Ben, we'll get into baseball in just a few moments, but yeah, Georgia, TCU in a national title game. It would be a crazy thought that TCU comes out and knocks off the Georgia Bulldogs. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But again, I didn't think the Wolverines, I didn't think that TCU had any chance against the Wolverines. And I thought it was going to be a 10 or 14 point loss. I didn't think it was going to be a 20-point loss, 10 or 14 points. And I just thought it was a pretty amazing thing to see TCU. And that's what you want to see. You want to see these Cinderella teams. And now you have 12-team playoff. And we've never seen this before. So that's going to be interesting how they're going to have the 12 team playoff and how it's going to work it's next year, right?
It's 2 years from now.
2 years from now. So it's going to be very interesting how the NCAA does that, but it'll make it more interesting.
And this is TCU is a great team to help that cause even more.
Absolutely, especially if they win the championship.
Yeah,
it will definitely make a statement. And again, maybe Sonny Dykes is a name that people are going to be brought up in the NFL this year.
I would say, I don't know about this year, but probably in like 2 or 3 years, I could see it.
Why not this year? There are a couple of teams that are going to be looking for coaches and looking for a guy that has a different style of offense. Chip Kelly, I mean, he came into the NFL, didn't do so well, didn't pan well in the NFL, but maybe Sonny Dykes is a better coach.
Yeah. Maybe
he knows how to coach these younger players or these more veteran-like teams. So who knows? I don't know what they're thinking, but very interesting. Ken Rosenthal reports he expects Carlos Correa's deal with the Mets to be dramatically different. I do too. I don't know about dramatically. I would say an 8-year, $218 million contract. I would say that. I could see him making more, top heavy. And as the years move forward in the 8 years that he's going to play for the Mets, he'll get less and less and less.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think he'll probably make around 35, 34 million a year for the first 4 years. And then at the back end, he'll be making 25,
like
24. Yes.
At that point.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I think they're going to do. He's not, I didn't think and honestly, whatever the injuries are, I don't know. And I'm not going to say I know, but nobody's come out, which they're saying it could be a foot injury from when he was 19. Some people say it's a shoulder injury. Some people say it's a hip injury. Nobody knows exactly what kind of injury it is, but obviously it's significant when you're hearing the Giants back out of it. Now the Mets are trying to renegotiate the deal before they sign the contract with him, and by the way, wasn't Carlos Correa last week saying that he will not take less years and won't take less money? Now all of a sudden,
one or the other, like he's not going to do both. So
so now I think he's bit his tongue.
Yeah, and now at this point, it seems like
because nobody's going to give him that contract.
Less years is basically inevitable at this point. So is Carlos Correa going to force his hand where he's going to get $32 million a year at this point? So it seems very hard because the Mets are definitely, if they're going to give him bigger money than his average annual value was originally, are putting other incentives in the deal. Those haven't been revealed yet. Obviously, a lot of it will depend on what the injury actually is.
Yep.
So if the Mets are going to add 3 more incentives into that deal, in addition to obviously other things that could go in a deal, like a no trade clause or team option or whatever, there's going to be a lot that goes with it. And that maybe is where Ken Rosenthal saying the deal could be drastically different, where it ends up being like the split chunk, very unconventional deal.
I think it's going to be around 7-8 year deal. That's where I think it's going to lie. There's no way they're going over 7-8 years, especially if this injury, I believe that both teams, the Mets and the Giants, think that he's not going to last past 5, 6, 7 years. They'll probably say, I would think that they'd say, listen, we want your best for the next 4 or 5 years. And then the last 2 or 3 years, good or not good, you'll be a DH. And if we can get anything out of you, we'll still pay you for it. That's really it. And in 8 years, he's 27 years old right now?
He's 29 right now. So
in 8 years, he'll
37.
be 37. He'll be at the tail end of his career as a player. And most players, they retire between 37 and 39. And they move on as a broadcaster or an analyst or a play-by-play guy. And Carlos Correa is good at that. He worked for, was he working for TBS for the playoffs or something like that?
That's right. Yeah, he was.
So he's good, and I think he's got a good personality. He's got a good look, and I think that's where he believes his career is going to end up, like Curtis Granderson did when he retired.
Oh, he's a fantastic analyst.
He's great, and a lot of people thought he was very good with his words. He was a good personality, and look what he's doing right now in the broadcasting world. He's doing very well for himself. I think the same with Carlos Correa, and I think he's very liked around the league, even though he's part of that organization that like to do things, under
illegally
under the buckets, if you know what I mean. But yeah. Rafael Devers, and I was going to get to that. We were going to get to baseball. Rafael Devers gets 11-year, $331 million contract. It was breaking news before the show, and I told Speedy, 11 years, $331 million. I'm not surprised. I'm really not. I was speaking to a Boston Red Sox fan at my barbershop. He actually owns the barbershop, and we were going back and forth. And I said, what do you think the big deal this offseason is going to be? He said, we need to sign Rafael Devers. We cannot let him go to free agency next year. I think he's in a free agency next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he said. And the Red Sox obviously gave him arbitration, I think, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, you gave him a $17 million arbitration 2 days ago.
Yes, and now 2 days later, they give him 11-year, $331 million. It's well deserved. He's one of the top 3, I would say, third baseman in baseball. I mean, you can argue that offensively, he's right there.
Yeah, he's one of the best pure hitters in baseball.
Yes. As far as defensively, he's good. I don't know if he's Nolan Arenado or somebody like that.
No, he's not that good, but he's improved from where he was. He's
good.
He's kind of like what Vlad Jr. was.
I think he's a future first baseman.
Yeah,
for the Red Sox.
he's kind of a lot like Vlad Jr. Like he came up, he was not good defensively at all. They had to move him to DH because of that. And since then, he's improved. And I think as a result, he probably will transition to first base.
I think so too.
Years.
Yeah. And I know that the Red Sox have a star first baseman right now in the farm system.
Yeah, Casas.
Yes, and so they'll have to decide what they're going to do with Rafael Devers, because as you get older, and Devers has a big body, you get slower. So you're going to have to play another position. They could put him in the outfield.
Right.
We've seen that before, but I don't know. Right now, he is their star third baseman, well-deserved contract. He is one of the better players in the league at his position. Young too. Very young.
Really young and durable.
Yeah, he's 25, I think he is.
So they're going to make it. They made it work for the 11 years, and they made it work because
he'll be 36.
Yeah, because they're going to be able to have a good plan of how to protect him too, because especially if he does end up getting injured down the road. But again, he's really durable throughout his career so far.
They haven't spent a lot of money, and they added some pieces. They did, and I like some of the Japanese kid who I like to go to the Yankees, left-handed.
Yoshida.
Yeah, Toshida. I think he's going to be a good fit with the Red Sox. The Red Sox, I will say this about their GM over there. He is not he's not a guy that's going to go out there and spend money, but he's going to go out there and put the right guys around the right guys. Now, they lost a very good shortstop. He goes to San Diego, but they added a pretty good shortstop last year in the offseason. Yeah. So I think where they're at and the way they're positioning themselves, I believe they're going to go heavily next year. And I know everybody says things like Manny Machado will be available next year. I've heard that he wants to go back to the American League East. They're the best division in baseball. He wants to go back there. Besides, we know the Blue Jays are probably not going to pay him that.
No, there's no way the Blue Jays are spending for any more.
And Tampa's not doing it. Baltimore is never about doing that. And I even though I think it would be a great fit to play with the younger players,
they have a ton of money. They should.
They're not going to do it. It's really the Yankees or the Red Sox. And if you would ask me where he'd go, it's probably the Red Sox, even though he always wanted to be a Yankee. The Yankees just gave Aaron Judge $360 million, and they gave Rendon $167 million. Now they have money coming off next year, which means they'll have openings. Josh Donaldson will not be on this roster next year.
Good riddance.
He's making $25 a year. Are they willing to pay Manny Machado $40 million? Because that's what he's going to be asking for.
Yeah.
He's going to be asking for it. But again, he'll be older. I think next year he'd be what?
I think he's 32.
32. So I don't know how much years he's going to get. He's going to probably get, between 6 and 7 years, but he's going to get a boatload of money up on the top in the front end.
Yeah.
So because he's still an elite player.
Right. And again, he's still been durable in his career too, even when he was with the Padres.
Plus you just gave Rafael Devers that money. Do you move Manny Machado, or do you move Rafael Devers, or do you trade your young first baseman and get somebody else, a pitcher or a player, another elite player for him?
Here's what the Red Sox could do too: keep Story at second base. You could put Machado at shortstop too. And
I forgot
Devers
about that.
Third.
Yes, Machado can play shortstop.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be a good fit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because Story defensively at shortstop hasn't been as good.
I forgot Machado. He could play both positions. He actually came up as a shortstop,
right?
Didn't he?
Yes, because there was no room for him at the time because they had JJ Hardy at the time, so they moved him to third, and then he played great defensively at third too, so they just kept him there.
He's one of the top 3, defensive, third baseman in all of baseball.
So it kind of got lost in the shuffle because of that. But then when Tatis has been hurt a lot for the Padres, he's played some shortstop there too. So, and then they moved Tatis to the outfield when he has come back at certain points as well, because he's played well there, and the versatility is just so good that's going to make it valuable.
I don't think Mike Trout would be a guy that they're going to bring in there. They have a GM that doesn't like to spend money like that. Now, they could give Manny Machado, like I said, Manny Machado makes a lot of sense. It really does, because he wants to come back to the East, and the Red Sox can make a huge splash to really stick it to the Yankees and adding Manny Machado. Now, again, the Yankees are probably going to look at Manny Machado next year, but are they going to overpay for him? That's the question. The Red Sox, as we heard Jeff say, that they're what does he call them now?
Franchise.
A poverty franchise, even though they bought team after team. I think the owner has like a ton of different teams now for a ton of different sports. I understand that, but I don't know about poverty. I think if they get the right guy, they'll make the right move. I disagree with them, but it'll be interesting. I'm very intrigued.
And at some point, the ownership is going to get in too, because they love to spend money as it is, and they just have to do it where it wasn't so unreasonable all at once. Because remember, they had to trade all those players from their 2007 championship team, Crawford, or not championship team, the 2011 team that was supposed to be a big championship team.
So the Dodgers
with Crawford, they traded the end of Josh Beckett's contract, all that stuff. Yeah, and they did all that. Then in 2015, they brought in Pablo Sandoval. That didn't work. They brought in Rusney Castillo from Cuba. That didn't work. Like, they had a bunch of things they had to pay off all at once. They were still paying some pitchers.
I don't think they care about money.
Right. At some point, they have to find a good balance with it all, because they're not going to let Chaim Bloom just be the Rays operating system the whole time in a big market like Boston.
No, and that's why Devers got a $331 million contract.
Right.
And that's a pretty good contract. 11 years. What is he averaging out? Like, I would say...
I would say 31.
31? You're getting one of the better players in the league for $31 million.
Yeah, it's a little over 30.09.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. I mean, Aaron Judge is making... He's 32, and he got a 9-year deal, and he's making $40 million. So that's a great deal.
Yep.
And if you would ask me who's better, obviously Aaron Judge is a better player.
Yeah,
but
of course,
Rafael Devers isn't far from him. I mean, he isn't. I would say Aaron Judge is one of the top 5, top 6 players. Devers is a top 11, top 12 player.
Right. Judge is more complete.
Yes.
But Devers is still a great.
He's a lot older.
Yeah.
He's 6 years older.
Devers is still a great pure hitter, though, and still has a lot of power.
It's interesting. It really is. You want to update the NFL picture right now? Or you want to do it tomorrow?
We could just touch on it a little bit. So the way it works, obviously, we don't know when the games will be. I could just do it quickly. So the Patriots now move into the 7th seed with their win against the Dolphins. They held on and won that. So right now they control.
And I'm hearing that Tua might not even play.
Yeah. So Tua it definitely does not seem like he's going to play. Teddy Bridgewater also left that game too. So will he play as well? Is another question.
I don't think so either.
And if that's the case, are they going to?
The Dolphins are going to get eliminated.
Yeah. So the Patriots still, even if they lose.
By the way, they don't have a 1st-round draft pick.
Yeah. So even if they lose to the Bills, if that game is even played, we'll see with the whole Damar Hamlin thing if that's even played the way they schedule it. But even so they're right now in the 7th spot. Miami's 8-8, same record. So they'll have to win and hope New England loses, or again, if there's some kind of algorithm the NFL does with that. That's really the last thing in the AFC. And then the NFC, well, actually, the Steelers still have a little bit of a chance, but it's still going to be hard. And then the NFC, Seattle is right now in the spot, but the Packers have the best chance of controlling their own destiny because they just have to win and get in. Detroit needs a win and a Seattle loss. So the Rams, who they traded Stafford to, obviously not playing, but they're going to have to help out the Lions if they want to have any shot at getting in by beating Seattle. The game is in LA, though, so there's a chance of that.
It's interesting because the Pittsburgh Steelers can make the playoffs.
They can. They would need both the Steelers or both the Patriots and the Dolphins to lose, because
they can't lose. They're playing against one another.
No, the Bills are playing the Patriots.
Right.
The Dolphins are playing the Jets. So if both teams lose and the Steelers beat the Browns, then
they'll
the
beat the Browns. The Steelers will beat the Browns. If I were the Jets, I don't win on Sunday. And I'm speaking the truth. And this has been a problem for the Jets over the years. They win the games that they shouldn't win. They're in position right now where I think they're drafting at 13. If they lose this week, they could go all the way down to 9 or 8. And that would be positioned, they could be positioned if they want a quarterback and somehow one of these quarterbacks fall to them, they can get them. So I don't try to win this game this week. I would try to lose. I would do everything I can to lose this game against the Dolphins.
Well, yeah, the Dolphins are going to have their own battles to overcome with the quarterback injuries as it is. So if they do have to start Skylar Thompson,
The
it's gonna be
Jets
hard as it
should
is.
lose this game. They really should. And we've seen this. They could have had a chance to get Trevor Lawrence, and they decided to win a game against the Rams, which screwed them a
And the
chance.
Browns, too.
It screwed them.
Both playoff teams. And they decided to beat them randomly.
Yeah, they cannot win this game.
Yeah,
they cannot win this game. They're positioned in a place where they could still move in the top 10 when it comes to draft, and that's what they want to be positioned, because they're going to be a good team next year. They are. Their roster's good, and they have a lot of players coming back from injury. So, and they're very young. I still think they need a quarterback, and maybe one of these guys fall to them. One of these guys could fall, or maybe they move up. If they're 8th or 9th and they want to move up to 5 or 6, I mean, you don't have to give up much for that. What do you have to give up? A second this year and a second next year to get them?
Yeah.
To get the guy that you want?
Now, the other thing that's interesting, too, is if we were saying earlier, it does end up happening, maybe they do push.
I understand, Jeff, none of them are falling, but you never know.
And they do push the Week 18 games maybe another week or so. That actually might help Miami get one of the quarterbacks back, too. And they're also going to get a couple defensive players from something I was reading with one of the Dolphins analysts on Twitter, that essentially getting a bye week would really help them get healthy as well. Because, the Patriots have some injuries, but they're not as key position injuries as what Miami is going through right now. So it's going to be hard for them to be able to win with Skylar Thompson and a lot of offensive linemen out too. Teron Armstead's a little healthier, which would help them too. So the Jets probably have a better shot at losing if the bye week pushes it to like 2 weeks from now.
And Jeff, I'm not even saying they're going to fall. I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to what I said. If the Jets are drafting at 9 or 8, you complete imbecile. If they're drafting at 9 or 8, it's easier for them to move up to get the guy that they want at 9 or 8 than at 12 or 13. Now, that's what I'm saying. Now, I'm just saying that maybe Levis falls. Maybe he does. Maybe there are other players that the combine, they do very well at the combine, and they stand at the combine and they say, I want that guy. He's a top 10 talent. I want him over Levis. Levis is still a guy that you're going to have to wait a couple of years to be your quarterback. That could happen. That could. You could say whatever you want. It could happen. We've seen this happen before. Josh Allen. Remember that?
Yeah, it was 12-7.
Yeah. Josh Allen. And I remember there were some people saying that there were teams interested in him at 3 and 4.
Yeah, the Broncos almost drafted him at 5. They went with Chubb instead. And then the Bills traded up with Tampa at 7 when going from 12. So, yeah, a team pick could realistically trade up with just having to do additional 2nd and 3rd round picks. They're not going to probably have to give up another first.
Whatever. That's all I'm saying. I don't really care what Jeff says. Jeff's an idiot. And that's why he is who he is. But anyways, as far as the NFC is concerned, Speedy, what do we got? Now the Cowboys could actually move as the number 1 seed.
Yeah, the Cowboys would need a lot for the number 1 seed to happen. Obviously,
the Vikings would have to lose.
I don't know. The Vikings actually don't have to lose. The Niners
have
to
the
lose.
same record.
Yeah, the Niners have to lose because Dallas has to win.
But Dallas beat the Vikings,
right? Because Dallas has to win, obviously, to get any shot at the number 1 seed.
Niners would have to lose, and the Eagles would have to lose.
Eagles. Well, yeah, the Eagles would have to lose to the Giants. Now, the Giants are might, because they clinched the 6th seed, they can't move at all. Might play some backups too. And Jalen Hurts could come back, especially again if the games are pushed. If the game is pushed another week, Jalen Hurts might be healthy by then. So the Eagles would probably get the 1 seed with Hurts being healthy if they could beat the Giants like they should. Now, Dallas against Washington, who's still been a tough team. They've struggled a little bit, but still are a tough team. They would have to beat as well. And then the Niners would have to lose against the Cardinals. So it's still a very unlikely scenario, but definitely possible. The Niners, again, if they win and the Eagles lose, and they could be the number 1 seed too, very easily. Where again, not a likely scenario.
I think the Niners right now in the last couple of weeks have been the best team.
Yeah, they are absolutely
in the NFC, and they have the best defense in all of football.
Yep.
So and the questions I have for the Niners in the next year or two, how are they going to keep all these defensive players?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. And Joey Bosa, right? I mean, Nick Bosa is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's had a fantastic year. I think he has like 17.5 sacks.
Yep.
Or something like that.
He's coming for Aldon Smith's 20 that he had a couple of years ago. That he had his second year in the league. So can he get there in the last game? We'll see.
It's interesting. He's a great young defensive lineman. He really is. He's fun to watch. And that defense is fun to watch. They really are. They're dominant. And if that offense can put up the numbers and Purdy can keep doing what he's doing, he hasn't lost. If he keeps on doing what he's doing, they could be very dangerous.
No, the Niners haven't lost since mid-October when they lost against the Chiefs.
All right, guys, that's it for our show. We'll be back tomorrow. Who do we have on tomorrow?
This is Players Week. I was able to get a lot of former players. Two guys we've had on the show before. At 9:30, we'll have former Jets and Cowboys defensive tackle Tony Casillas. He'll be joining us again.
Yeah.
Yep. And then at 10 o'clock, we will have former Browns and Patriots cornerback, and now we're running for political office, Lee Bodden, who we had at the beginning of
Lee's
last
coming
year.
on.
Yep.
Good.
Yep,
I
he
like
was
Lee.
running. He was running for an election last time
Good
we
for
had him
him.
on the show. Prince George's County, Maryland. So we'll find out how that ended up going from Mr. Bodden.
Yeah, well, I liked Lee.
Yes.
Great stories, a good person, good heart, man. So happy we have. We're gonna have 2 ex-NFL players on tomorrow.
I'm amazed. Like the players, like 4 of them in 1 week.
It really is. It's the new year, and they're available. And I think that's the thing with Christmas and the holidays. They're all home.
Yeah.
Their kids are home, so they're available.
Yeah, we saw one of the kids tonight, Brayden Jacobs.
Brayden Jacobs, who I think is going to be a special player, and me and Brandon have have a bet. So we'll stick to it and look at him rub the jersey.
Yep.
Why
That
don't you
jersey
put that
will
on?
become.
Why don't you
It
put that
doesn't
on?
fit.
I think you should wear it.
It was my brother Ryan's jersey when he was a kid. So
I
actually tested it. I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work.
What do you look like, a schoolboy?
Well, no, it would be it would be way too tight on me if I were to put it on.
Yeah, you'd be like a schoolboy.
I mean, yeah, I'd be like a walking on stilts if I were doing that.
Interesting. Speedy on stilts.
Well, yeah, that would be unbalanced in itself. But
Yes, you would be unbalanced. Anyways, that's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back at 9 p.m. tomorrow. Hopefully, we don't have Jeff bothering the hell out of me throughout the show and actually acts normal or be a normal person like any normal person would be. But Jeff's not normal, so that's it. But maybe tomorrow he'll call the show and act like a normal person. Anyways, thank you, obviously, to Brandon Jacobs and Brayden Jacobs for joining us. And obviously, Chris Draft, who was fantastic. Great interview.
Fantastic.
Chris is a really, really good guy and great speaker, too. Really good with his words. So fantastic. Great show, Speedy. It really was. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. Good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Rangers still